Hello, everybody. Me just pulling faces randomly at the camera. You can if you like. Yep. I seem to also have a microphone on. Come on, it's me, guys. So, tonight's quick one. See, I've even made notes. See, I have notes. That may not look like a lot of notes, but you guys know me. You guys really should know me by now. Hello, Bronwyn. Yeah, you know me. You know how organized I am. Yeah. Do you know what's a really scary thought? I used to lecture in topics. Like, I had, like, full classes and courses, and I had to sort out people's exams, and I had to write exams, and all this. They all passed. I got really good grades. All right, what else conversations are we getting? There you go. We have two of our regulars, although one of those is one of the mods. I will let anybody else who doesn't know who the mod is play guess which username is the mod. Hey, Jean. Yeah, for those who don't know, I'm laughing. Bronwyn's just said, "Oh, I'm not organized." Me. Yeah, well, on that note, you know how, like, I may be a little bit of a klutz, so I was cleaning windows. Genuinely, I was doing, like, boring housework. I was cleaning a window, and the ladder went out from underneath me, and on the way down, I managed to smash my knee off a countertop. So the painkillers are making the world a lovely, rosy place to be. So if I start saying the wrong thing and prattling on about absolutely nothing at all, you've got a good guess why. Yep. Okay, guys. So tonight, I mean, to be honest, I really need to start making more cheerful live streams. But I was noticing things that we're seeing a lot on the group. So tonight, as you can see, is titled 5 Reasons We See Dead Fish. And that's not because we look for them. 5 reasons that we see mostly on the group that are causing a loss of the dead fish reasons. Sounds a bit weird. And they're not the top 5. They're not the only 5 by any means. And I think I've probably got a lot of mileage of various reasons why fish drop dead. But there are 4 that you can cure reasonably easily. And 1 you can't. That's the sad truth. If you look down in the description, there is all the links. So some of those are just journal articles. I've tried to avoid ones that are behind paywalls. If I have, I think the JSTOR one might be behind a paywall, but normally on JSTOR you can read for free anyway. And I just know that a lot of mine I'm automatically signed into something, so there may be the odd one. If anyone's really desperate and one is behind a paywall, let me know. The Amazon links, obviously they're books, they've got to pay for. They're affiliate links. There's my legal thing done out the way. All that means is when you buy something off Amazon, the publisher or the author doesn't get all of it. Not most of it, but a good percentage goes to Amazon. If you go via one of our links, they give a little bit of their cut to us. You don't pay anything extra. Right. Let me have a look. There you go. Now, not other than most people taking the mick out of Don, which is fine. If you really want to wind him up, call him Dom. There you go. We get instant rage then. It's quite funny to watch. I'm sorry, Don. I love you, really. I know you're not having a great week. But, you know, we have a live stream. So, what I wanted to do, you should be able to see in the bottom corner of the screen. I'm going to point the wrong way now. That way. Yay, I did it right. Just about there. About there. There. There you go. There. Is a little fish. And that has got signs. Anyone in the comments? Anyone in the comments able to tell me what symptom we'd call that? Not what not what illness or reason that fish had to be put to sleep. What's the symptom there? Okay. While Fuzzy Duckling gets the mick taken out of him. There's about a 20-second delay between me talking. There you go. Pine coning, also known as dropsy. And we often see people coming on going, my fish has got dropsy. The other one, if you ever want to wind Tom up, just use the word swim bladder, and not meaning like an organ, mean it like a disease. Just say my fish has got swim bladder, or my fish is suffering from swim bladder. I can almost hear the scream of rage. It's great. And he lives at the other end of the country from me. Pretty sure we can still hear the scream of rage. The reason behind that one, and I'll go back to dropsy in a second, swim bladder is actually an organ. It's sort of like saying, you know, my friend has kidney. You know, people are going to look at you and go, most people have kidneys. Yeah. So most fish have swim bladders. Not all fish do, but it's a small minority that don't. It's what controls their vertical height, so up and down. If your fish is spinning, if your fish is floating upside down, if your fish is struggling, it's probably not swim bladder. It may be something that's causing an infection of the swim bladder. It may be something that's putting pressure on the swim bladder, but it's not swim bladder. Anyway, dropsy. What does dropsy mean? Dropsy is just, or pine coning, as someone said in the comments. Dropsy is just the accumulation of fluids in the body, so edema. If you watch daytime telly, I tend to work evenings, so I get to wander into my house quite frequently to find other people are watching really rubbish daytime telly. And they talk about things like lymphedema and stuff like that. It's just like swelling, basically. So dropsy is just saying my fish has got too much fluid inside, and it isn't for some reason able to get it outside. Reasons for dropsy are multitude. There's a whole host of reasons why a fish will be swollen up. Once it gets to the pine coning stage, sadly, it's kindest to put it to sleep. One of the most common reasons is organ failure, and that's frequently caused by being exposed to ammonia, nitrite, or even excessive nitrates. So it's one of those things. Hey, Bronwyn, you managed to get a message held for review. It's all right, YouTube. She's all right. So yeah, Bronwyn, you'll be able to tell us a bit more about what it is. And I think, you know, that's over the whole fish's body. And sadly, we see so many people, and I see why people don't want to put their fish to sleep. I don't like putting my fish to sleep. I get attached to the little buggers, and especially when it's something like a fighter or something that's that individual that you know. Something that greets you at the tank in the morning or has its own little personality, and next thing you know, some idiot online is going, I know what you need to do. You need to smash its head off the concrete. That's not a nice thing to be saying about someone's pet. And I think maybe the fact that we have to do the one... I mean, when the end comes for my dogs, I can go and get a vet to do it nicely. And I am so thankful for that. For my fish, I can't. I'm not going off. And sadly true, but I'm not putting the stress on the fish of being transported to the vets. But also, it's a cost factor. You think how much it would cost if you had to have every single neon tetra put to sleep. So sadly for me, blunt force trauma it is. If it's something that's a real pet, I ask someone else to do it. And I'll hold my hands up to that. My poor dad occasionally gets, my cichlid's dying, would you put it to sleep? So I catch it and he does the final blow. But yeah, so it's one of those horrible things, but that isn't a disease. That isn't a condition. It's just a symptom. And if you have pine coning, and I see it a lot, and I will say it winds me up a little bit. I should have put Ruth rants into the tags for this one. But anyway, mini rants. Okay. If you are, and I wrote this in PFK, I've said this on previous streams, if you are giving people advice, make sure you are giving them the right advice. And how do you do that? You become a mini expert in that topic. I have a million things I can't give you advice on. Of those, there are many, many thousands that I know the right person to go and ask. And that's one way of doing it. On many occasions, I've said to people, look, I'm not sure. I don't know 100% on that one, but give me half an hour and I'll be back to you with the research. And there is nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. And if you want to improve it, say, I don't know, but I'm going to do my best to find out. But people come on, they see that, and in fact, that fish was off the group. Sorry, I can't remember the lady's name who let me use that one. If anyone wants it, I can give credit to the person. But she said, and they said, it's pine coning, put it to sleep. Brilliant for that fish, but what about the rest of the tank? As I said, dropsy is often caused by dropsy is always caused by something else, and that is often caused by bad tank conditions, poor water quality. So it's no use saying, put that fish to sleep, full stop. Say, put that fish to sleep, and let's see about the rest of your tank. You'll often see us on the group, even when something's clearly fatal, we won't come in going, I'm sorry, it's fatal, you're going to have to euthanize. We're saying, what's your water parameters, what's your stocking, etc. Not because we think we can help that fish, but before the person goes, I don't want to talk to you anymore, we want to know if we need to help the rest of the tank. So please, people, if you are going to give advice, and please give advice. I love seeing it. We're always saying that our job as the Modmin team isn't to be giving everyone advice. It's to moderate the advice that's being given and make sure it's the correct advice. But isn't it brilliant for us, and especially now? And I'm starting to see it in huge numbers on the group. We're stepping way back and brilliant advice is being given. So please, if you are diagnosing someone's fish, please make sure you are giving the right diagnosis. Or sorry, I shouldn't say diagnosis, because in some countries and partly in the UK that's controlled. But if you are giving advice on how to treat that fish, then seriously consider what you know. And please don't do the I saw it on another group, it was advised. It might have been the wrong advice. And if you're not confident to back that up, don't put someone else's pets in your hands when you're not confident. Yep, Drummond's saying that, so Don's saying he actually doesn't, yeah, you won't see him on any of the disease posts. No, but remember I said there were things I couldn't advise on, but I knew people who could. Yeah, you're one of those I go running to going, help. And Drummond's saying, yeah, I've bought a book and read it. I'm going to show you these later, and see, that one. That's a good one to get. That one's out of stock right now. Shocking. But there is a Kindle edition. I've put the link in the description. So if anyone gets the Kindle edition, can you let me know what it's like? Because I haven't got it yet, because it's the same author, you say, and I'm sort of looking at going, it's a slightly different title, though. That one, though. I think we all love this one. I think this is written in, like, about 90... It's 19-something. 98, maybe? Yeah, 1998, that is. And there's still not a better book out there, I think, for just quickly checking things up. That's my go-to. Yeah. When someone pops something up and I'm thinking, pretty sure I know what it is, but yeah, that's the one I'm double checking with. So, that one. So, first reason we see a lot of dead fish, it's not dropsy, that was just to sort of point out the problems that we see. So, first one that I wanted to talk about was our good old friend Columnaris. I've put 2 links in, and it goes through the different strains of Columnaris. And you might remember that we were talking about neon tetra disease often being misdiagnosed as Columnaris. So Columnaris is one of those annoying diseases. It must have about 10 other names. You've got saddleback disease. You've got anal rot disease. That's always a great one for getting the giggles when people are drunk. You've got cottonmouth is probably the most common name we see for it. Come on, people, throw the other ones in the comments, but they're the main ones. Saddleback, cottonmouth, I mean, anal rot's not used. Oh, fin and body rot, that's often Columnaris. So let me see if I can get some pictures. So Columnaris is a disease, and it often starts in the gills. Let me see if that'll change it. Now, if you look on that one carefully, sorry everyone who's on a small screen or eating your dinner. If you look on there, you can see there's like a little yellow patch. There's actually an arrow pointed to it. And this whole study is in the link, is in the description. That white section is gill necrosis. Now, as anybody who's got a set of lungs knows, you need them to breathe, and they need them to breathe. So if you start to lose patches of your lungs, like they're losing patches of the gills, it becomes difficult to breathe. If you look at the rest of that fish, it's pretty healthy looking. So when you get sudden rapid deaths, that's why we're often looking at Columnaris and going, that's a worry. So you might get things like that. You might get ulcers. So ulcers can often be, that's where the anus is rotting away. You'll get ulcers that are often causing problems. Now, annoyingly, I couldn't find a decent picture of a saddleback, but it looks like a saddle. I'll put this one up a second. It's not great because it's shown from the top. But if you take the dorsal fin and go immediately behind it, if there's a big patch behind there, then you're probably looking at Columnaris, and that's one of the problems. It's typical if the saddleback Columnaris is typical. Sadly, the saddleback Columnaris is one of the easier ones to treat. So if you've got the saddleback, yay, because there's a very good chance you can treat it then. I think I've got one more. Oh yeah, and complete tail erosion. In this case, it started at the top and it is just eroded. And where the arrow is pointing is actually started to go into body rot. I generally think, sounds a bit horrible, but I generally think once it goes to body rot, you're done for. You can't, there's not much you can do once it started to rot into the body. You can hit it with heavy meds, and I probably would, because you're going to have to treat the whole tank. But if it's the last fish and everything else is dead and it's looking pretty bad on body rot, you're probably not going to save it. It's pretty bad once it's that far down. So, Columnaris. It's a column-shaped bacteria. It can be one of the strains, especially the Asian strain, is incredibly fast-acting. It's so fast-acting that if I had a way of confirming that it was the Asian strain, I don't think I'd bother treating the tank at all. It's just too harsh. It's too fast. I can't get hold of the antibiotics in this country very easily. I might try and talk to my vet about getting the antibiotics, but I'd have to know that there was a reasonable chance. But they're the sort of ones where you hear of people getting a fish on Saturday and the entire tank is wiped out by the following, like, Thursday or something. It's that rapid through. Luckily, there's about 5 strains and the other 4 aren't anywhere near as bad. Neon tetra disease tends to be can be misdiagnosed as Columnaris. Misdiagnosed when it's actually Columnaris. It's the Asian strains. It's really difficult to treat. That's why we're starting more and more, unless we're reasonably confident it's neon tetra disease, to say actually you'd be better trying to treat it. Yeah. Quarantine. I do it. I'm a big fan of quarantine. And quarantine for at least minimum 2 weeks. I wouldn't quarantine for any less than 2 weeks. Personally, I tend to be looking more 6 weeks to even 3 months. It does depend where I got my fish from. If I know the supplier, then that's a whole different ball game too. I was out and about and I spotted something. I mean, I'm really lucky I get to go and visit a lot of fish shops. Sometimes I'll go in there and go, ew, they're the ones you guys never get to hear about. But sometimes when you're in that ew fish shop, there's a really unusual fish there and you're going, ooh, I want that one. There's a shop not a million miles away from me. Quite frequently they'll give you a free dose of Columnaris with every fish. But on occasion they've got something so incredible that I'm thinking I'll risk it, and I then quarantine for 3 to 6 months even on that particular shop. And then hopefully the fish survive. Sometimes they don't. And at that period of time, it's very difficult to go back to a shop and go, you sold me something 3 months ago and I've been battling Columnaris since. They're not going to believe you. So it is one of those things you take the risk on. Right, so that's Columnaris. How to treat. Escher 2000. So we normally go Escher 2000, Escher X are your go-tos. Escher 2000 won't even touch Columnaris for the most. I think it claims to, but we've never seen any great success on that one. So you're looking at your JBL Ectol Plus is the one we tend to go for, but it's got meth blue in it, so will damage your cycle. Myaxin, if it's a mild case, and if we're not sure at that point, we think it could be Columnaris, but we're not sure. We tend to hit it with Myaxin by Waterlife. If you're going to buy any of these, can you please go through the Amazon shop? Like I say, just gives us a few pennies. JBL Ectol, if you're in a rush, get that one from any Maidenhead. They normally stock it. Meth blue baths. There's one that I'm really going to start. If you've got Columnaris, you're going to be catching any heavily infected fish and giving them daily meth blue baths. So what do you do there? Container of tank water. Add meth blue according to the packet instructions. So King British is the common brand in England, in the UK. And that's 9... Oh, geez, I can't remember whether it's 1 milliliter per 9 litres or the other way around. Anyway, check the packet. Follow their instructions. Put the fish in there for about 20 minutes. Net it out and then put it back in. If you've got a small tank, sometimes maybe put them via another container just to wash the meth blue off. But generally, if your tank's a reasonable size, just pop it straight back in. And they'll be fine. Do that every day. Every single day. Sorry, Don's trying to multitask while watching the stream. Oops, and he's just got stung by a bristle worm. At least you didn't get stung by your lionfish. Do you have a lionfish still? I can't remember. Someone in the mod team has anyway. So that was that one. The next one we're moving on to is so easily avoidable. It's amazing, and that is heater failure, and we see it constantly. It's one of those things that is a bit mind-blowing. How often we see heaters completely fail. I am the queen Why the heck did that one get moderated? Straight talking fish. Yeah. 1 milliliter per 9 litres of meth blue. There you go. That was one. I could never remember which way around it is. I see too many med packets each day. And yeah, Joanne said the same. It's 1 milliliter to 9 litres. So yes, a meth blue will dye everything blue. We have had Tom with a blue foot after he stood on some. Looked like he kicked a smurf or squashed a smurf. We have Carol. Parts of her carpet used to be dyed blue. I have had a face that was dyed blue. I frequently have fingers and thumbs that are dyed blue. It will dye your sand and it won't wash off. I had sand that I was doing water changes on for over a year afterwards and it was still dyed blue. And it will dye your silicone blue. So avoid using it put in your tank, and it'll also kill your cycle. Put meth blue in your tank and your cycle's gone. So don't. Just avoid it. Treat them outside the tank. You can also, if you want to, especially something like the saddleback, you can paint it on. So literally I get a paintbrush. Let's see if I've got one. Yep. Okay, it doesn't have to be a fingerprint brush. That one's actually been used for fingerprint powder, so I wouldn't use that one. But just any old paintbrush, and dip it in the meth blue, neat meth blue, and actually paint it on the fish. You're going to have to hold them out of the water for a few seconds at most. So if I'm doing that, so sometimes in my quarantine tank I will meth blue the whole thing, because I might only have 1 or 2 fish. So to avoid stressing them, I'll just nuke the cycle, and then after I finish using meth blue, I'll put a new filter in. Or a newly cycled filter, I should say. So what I might do if it's a bad case, I'll catch them out, leave them in the net, make sure my hands are nice and wet. If it's on the back, on the saddleback, I might only just hold them out of water and then just literally paint the neat meth blue on and then pop them back in. If they're fuzzy and when you paint neat meth blue on it goes blue, it's sap. Columnaris fuzz doesn't absorb the blue as much. Hillside Reptiles. Once had a bottle explode all over me. My entire chest was blue for ages afterwards. Yeah. Like I said, I had a streak of blue up my face. And everyone kept assuming I'd been on one of these. It was just after the colour run, which is where you sort of run around the streets and get colours of bombs thrown at you and like powders and stuff. And everyone was sort of assuming that because at the time I was running that I'd done that. And I'm going, totally. Yeah, they should use stuff that washes off, whilst thinking, no, it's fish meds. I did own up to most people it was fish meds. So, heater failure. Totally easy to solve. Recommended brand for me is Inkbird. The only reason is, well, 2 reasons. One, I use them. I've used lots of them. I have on occasion noticed a bit of probe creep from other people. I've never had it happen to me. I have a lab thermometer that I dip into my tanks every so often and just make sure that all my Inkbirds are still reading. A couple of other people have noticed that the temperature's wandered off. But the brilliant thing about Inkbird, and I don't think anyone can complain, you've got a problem, they solve it. In our group, we've actually got an Inkbird rep, and I'm pretty sure she would bend over backwards to do anything. I've just got the newest one. So every so often we have a whinge about a feature that it doesn't have, but in a very, but we'd love to have this feature, sort of almost joking sometimes. And it seems every time we do, they go, okay, and add it. So this one has got Wi-Fi, so you can monitor it from afar. Brilliant for telling you that something's gone wrong when you're not in the house. But anyway, so that'll link up to an app on your phone. And it has 2 probes. So if one starts to go, you have the backup of the other. So 2 probes. So what do? You plug your Inkbird into the electricity. You put the probe in your tank. That's all you put in your tank. Nothing else, just the probe. Then it has 2 screens. And one is the temperature you've set. And one is the temperature that it is right now. You then plug your heater in. And it will keep it at the temperature you've set. Now, what they recommend is you then turn your heater's thermostat higher than the Inkbird. So the Inkbird's in total control. Then, if by some hideous thing the Inkbird failed in the on position, which it shouldn't do, I've never had seen a case of that happening, your heater thermostat will kick in. If your heater sticks on for any reason, the Inkbird cuts the electricity off, and that's the crucial thing. Your heater sticks on, the Inkbird just stops it working. And I have known cases where people have found out their heater's been stuck on for ages, but because the Inkbird's been turning it on and off, it's been as if it's working perfectly. So that's one of the great things about it. Heater failure is a major cause of fish tank deaths. And we're going into the season when we're going to see it. So next week, they're saying in England, we're going to get more autumnal feel, which is probably why there's a gale blowing right now around my little office. We'll now find it'll go colder, and we'll find all those times that the heaters have pretty much been stuck on, but because of the warm weather, nobody's really noticed, or they'll start to work a little bit and then suddenly fail, and they fail in the on position, not the off position for most. And that then means they stick on and they just keep heating up your tank. Right. If you are super cheap and you're not willing to spend the money on an ink bed, I've put the newest one on that link, and that's £45, but there's 30% off right now. So if you're going to get one, grab it now, because you tick the box and you get 30% off right away. There is cheaper options. The older options are cheaper. There's nothing wrong with them. They just don't have dual probes and Wi-Fi. If you are super cheap, then go with 2 smaller heaters in your tank. But spend the money on the heaters. Don't get cheap ones off eBay. Get more expensive ones. There are other brands out there other than Inkbed, but recently we had someone whose house went on fire, or nearly went on fire, due to another brand. We don't know the brand. We're not even aware of it too well. But I just know, I'm not going to say there's other brands out there, because we have had problems with other brands. Yeah, there's another one there. Good one, Hillside Reptiles. Yeah, it's exactly the same as Reptile Stats that we use. They're not dimming stats. So a dimming stat, what it does is, rather than just cut it off, it dims the amount of power available. These aren't the same. These just are on or off. But that's how fish tanks tend to work. And you can put it within quite a narrow range. I think mine are about a degree apart. So say I'm sitting at 23 degrees. It won't kick back on until the water falls to 22 degrees. In the bigger tanks, I narrow it down. I can do it down to half a degree, because it takes so long to lose heat that it's not going to be switching on and off very rapidly. Yeah, they're brilliant. And I don't think... Fish keeping, and I came up in that period where fish keeping was very cheap, or it could be very cheap, and for a lot of people it was. And then I noticed tanks getting more and more expensive. Not all tanks, but we suddenly started to get a lot more expensive tanks on the market. And I remember thinking at the time, oh, that's killed fish keeping. And I don't think it has. I think it's made fish keeping a bit different. So rather than having... I mean, I've got up to 40 tanks set up at any one time. I think I've only got about 25 set up right now. I should know exactly how many tanks I've got set up. I'll count them at some point. Anyway, so I've got up to 40 tanks set up at any one time. The reason I'm actually cutting down on numbers, and I've gone from smaller tanks to the same volume of water but larger tanks, because I think that maybe it's nice now that we're spending more money on the equipment that keeps everything running much smoother, and it's much more enjoyable. So rather than faffing around with very cheap filtration systems, so for example, I used to run my entire fish house on air pump. Just an air pump, and then it ran all the sponge filters. I didn't like the noise. The noise used to wind me up and chronic, so it sort of took away from the hobby. So now what I've done is I've done away with the air pump. I don't even run it. If anyone wants to buy an air pump, drop me a PM. It's old, but it still works. And I've now changed nearly all my tanks to externals. Some of my smaller ones are run on internals. And it's so much nicer. Some of my fry tank, when they're set up, will be run on a small air pump, pretty quiet, and sponge filters, because I think they're brilliant and have got their place. But I think there's been that change in fish keeping from cheap as chips, let's get as many tanks in as we can. And we're now starting to stop and say, no, actually, I think I'm going to have 1 or 2 stunning tanks, and I'm going to put the effort in. And the rise of aquascaping is really helping in that, because now we can make our tanks works of art. Well, we could if we could actually plant things. Other people can make their tanks works of art. I, on the other hand, have to hope that other people will travel up and make my tank a work of art. And you might see that I know who I'm talking about, given that I'm saying travelling up. You know. No, I don't run sumps in the fish house, purely because that would mean under each tank, because, I mean, they're on racking. And I don't like having multiple tanks on the same sump, because purely it means that I've got shared water, and often I've got specific water parameters for each tank. So if you take the first racking as you walk in, it's top one I run at 28, KH of 4, pH sits at about 6.6. Second one down I run at KH of 0 to a half, depending on where we are in the water change cycle. pH at about 5.8 last time I tested. I'm trying to bring it down a tiny touch, but be happy if it sits at 5.8. Temperatures in there is only 25. The one below that's actually dry because it's the apple snail tank. Moving on to the next racking, I'm on 25, KH of 6, pH of 7. The middle one is going to be brackish. It's not set up yet, but that one's going to be a brackish tank. Temperature of 26. One below that is where my axolotls go when I've got them. I'm getting them soon again. And that sits at 18 through most of the year. So as you can see, as I'm moving around, I'm physically on racking. You'd have to lose about half your tank space for sumps, and I love them. But in a fish house, it doesn't really work unless you start to run them on all on the same system. Tanks in the house or tanks in here, 100% sumps. And I think I'm trying to try Nick Wayne's idea where he's still got a very small tank that's sumped underneath. That would be brilliant. Little tank on my desk just there would be brilliant with a little sump underneath. You know, I can try. I'll have to annoy Wayne. Let's have a look. So Bronwyn's saying she wants to rescape her entire tank and make it a proper safe habitat for the fish. Yep. Yeah. When your fish are big enough to escape the tank themselves from dawn, it can be hard to keep it pretty. Yeah, oh, I know that one. I keep lots of turtles as well. And I've got Cyclamis dentata and Cyclamis old hammy, which are semi-aquatic. So I decided that since they're not big plant eaters, they do eat a lot of veg, but they're not huge veg eaters. I'd risk it and I'd put some plants on their land area and some plants in their water area. So they dragged the plants out the water and dumped them onto the land area, which meant when I found them the next day, they were crispy. And then they dug up the plants from the land area, and when I went in, one was swimming around the tank with it in its mouth, like it was trying to show me the prize it had just found. So we gave up on that idea. Yep, so Don's saying he works on larger tank. Yeah, on larger tank racks, I'd agree. The one thing I am considering doing is I've got space at each end of my racking, maybe sumping it off to the side, but then I've got bends in the tubes. I'm having a think about that one. Ideally, I would. On the other side, they all run, except for one tank, they all run at the same temperature and roughly the same conditions. In fact, they could all be put on the same conditions. So I could sump all them off one system. I'm having to think about that one, to be honest, at that side. But my main problem with it is I'd have to have a sump for every tank, and they'd have to be running on all different systems. And that's where it starts to get a bit tricky. So yeah, right now in there, I'm having to use, the biggest canisters I could get hold of. And they're only APS for the most. They're just the big APS filters. But anyway, back to topic. Heater failures should be avoided simply. Just buy yourself an ink bed. Okay. The third one is the one I said that couldn't be treated. And we do see a lot of it. We've seen a couple of cases recently, and that's fish TB. Fish TB is a panic for us because it can kill you. I'll admit it's only killed one person and he was already sick, and that sounds so flippant. I do apologise if any of his family actually see that. I do apologise. Someone was very immunocompromised, and his final cause of death was fish TB, or Mycobacterium marinum. It has caused a lot of people its common name is fish tank granuloma in humans, and it causes rashes in effect, a bit like rashes all over your arm, but they tend to be isolated into spots. So if you've got some sort of rash or granuloma on your arms that won't go away, and your doctor's going a bit, I don't know what it is, could you please next time you go to the doctor go, by the way, I'm a fish keeper. TB is a problem. TB is a big problem. TB cannot be cured. We can't treat it. There's a possibility of some very strong antibiotics making a dent in it, but nothing that's coming out going, this is a cure. So as present, we don't have a cure for it, especially in the UK with antibiotics and stuff being prescription only. TB is a disease of elimination rather than cure. So you've got to have ways to keep it out your tanks. TB for me, I think, is the one that makes me start to feel like a bad fish keeper, because I've had it twice in my tanks in the last 2 years, in each in an individual tank. I'm going to actually go and say I think actually the reason is I noticed it. I caught it quite quickly in one tank. I managed to isolate that fish. I managed to keep him alive long enough that we could confirm it was definitely TB. Or as well as we can without a lab test. In the second tank, because then I was on alert of having had it in the other tank about 6 months earlier, I spotted it very, very quickly as a possible cause. And I think anyone else would have just put it down to bad quality rams. I lost 5 of my rams from that one. Again, I think in a normal tank it would have just been someone had gone, they're one of those fish. I don't believe in fish just die from something. I'm a bugger for really trying to narrow it down. And again, reasonably confident that was TB. What am I doing? Both of those tanks are isolated now for 6 months. One's just about to come out of quarantine. One's in quarantine for another 4 months, something now. So, how do you recognise TB? How do you know it's TB? 100%. You send it off for the lab. It is about £140. If anybody wants to do that, let me know. I have a really good contact. Mary is lovely. And Mary is... she's brilliant. She will talk any person through who needs it. If you were paying that much, I would pay for your vet to fix the fish, to have it sent off for treatment. Because if you're already paying about 150, then just pay the extra to have the vet done it and you know it's going off safely. Why should you pay it? Because you might actually find that it's not, or you might find that it is. It can be horrible. It tends to come through in waves. We are right now seeing a bit of a wave, we think, in mollies. Part of the reason I'm going to talk at the end. So we're a bit panicky about any mollies we see. But mollies have other problems that, like I say, is the last one on the topic. So, if you suspect you have fish TB, why might you suspect? Let me throw up some pickies. I do have a picky of this. So, zebrafish are being used as our ideal... Zebradanios are frequently used as human replicas. So we use human medicine. We test it on zebrafish, or test certain things on zebrafish because they replicate reasonably quickly, because they can be bred in all different ways, and because they're susceptible to a lot of the diseases we are. And obviously one of them is because there's fish TB and human TB. They can be used to do various medical testing. That's also why we know so much about how to cull fish, because there's been piles of work on how to humanely cull zebras. If anybody wants me to do a topic on how to cull your fish, I will do, but it is in depth and I apologise. Yeah. I'm at that stupid stage where I'm now helping advise people on how to write their policies for culling fish, because sometimes you get far too into a topic. Yeah, as Don said, it may be this. Yeah, I've noticed it twice. So, what are you looking for in TB? That top fish has got ulcers, and we see ulcers quite a bit. It's one of those things, we see them, and we don't go, it's one of those things. The one that we actually see more is that fish at the bottom, where they've lost all the muscles along the spine, and they normally get a kink rather than just a curve. But if you see, so look at your fish from the top, and if the spine is standing proud, that is a pretty good indicator it's got TB. Spitting of food, so the throat will start to close up, so they'll eat the food, they won't be able to swallow it, and they'll just spit it back out. Now, fish spit food. A lot of fish will take a mouthful as too big, or they'll take something they don't like the taste of and they'll spit it back out. We're not talking about constantly. You often see fish take in like a big flake, chew it up a bit, spit it out, and then go around and eat all the bits, because why not? I'm talking about fish constantly eating and spitting food, losing weight, that traditional curve in the spine, and any bad ulcers. Unexplained deaths previously in your tank is another bad sign for us, but here's the one. TB thrives when you don't do water changes. That's a simple fact. The 2 tanks that I've had it in, I have done water changes, so it's not a guaranteed thing. But the fish were reasonably recently new to me. They developed it somewhere else than I'd got them in. And in both cases, I bought all the fish in those tanks at the same time. So it was one of those cases that I didn't quarantine them because it was a fresh tank for them to go into. Fully cycled, but they could go into there. But where we see it most, we do see it. Bacteria builds up anywhere. I want you to imagine you never cleaned your house. Okay, it's pretty filthy. Not only that, you pee all over the carpets and you never clean them. Maybe you put some standing water in there to allow the bacteria to really... And then you keep it at tropical temperatures. How healthy do you think that's going to be? A tropical fish tank is pretty ideal for bacterial growth. Columnaris, TB, anything. It's brilliant for it. E. coli, salmonella, you name it. If you let it, it will grow. So how do you stop it? And that's the crucial thing, and that's good tank hygiene. Regular water changes, regular cleaning of the bottom. So if you've got gravel, use a gravel siphon. If you've got sand, get a bigger gravel siphon, because all then that'll do is as you're putting it in, just the same as you would gravel, the sand will suck up, but it'll fall down as the flow drops. So big gravel siphon for sand is great. If you've got plants, a planted substrate, make sure you've got plenty of plants. The roots will bring in good bacteria, which will outcompete the bad bacteria. Keep your tank healthy. One of our mods had TB in her tank for, I'm going to go for like a year and a half or something like that. She kept that tank very, very healthy by outcompeting the TB with good bacteria. She couldn't add any fish. She couldn't have ever sold any fish that had bred in there. But she kept everything going in there by very, very good tank hygiene. If you have suspected TB in your tank, gloves, pond gloves, you can buy them for ponds. Put them on. If you're immunocompromised, don't risk it. Really, really don't risk it. If you've got any cuts on your hands, again, pond gloves and be extra, extra careful. But with your equipment, make sure you're not changing equipment tank to tank. So if you've got more than one tank and you suspect one of them's got anything in it, don't change equipment over. So nets, your hands, buckets, gravel siphons, algae magnet cleaners, anything like that, don't move them tank to tank. And don't do anything like, say, you use something in one tank and just quickly move it into another because you've forgotten. Don't move plants from one to the other. Don't move decorations from one to the other. Treat it as like a toxic soup. After 6 months, if nothing's dropped dead, that first tank I found it in, one fish clearly went down the route of TB. I'm now, like I say, I'm just about... I think it might be 4 months now. Four months or something. I've got it written down. I put it all in my diary. I'll check my diary later. But anyway, I'm months along the line and I haven't had a single problem. I lost 4 fish quite rapidly. Then I spotted this one, got him out, and all the other fish are in stunning colours right now. So I don't think it's passed on. TB isn't that easy to pass from fish to fish. It will do, but it's not super, super easy. The issue is it's so prevalent in the rubbishy farms that we're now getting it over here. And the back time I think, please choose your fish carefully. Go into your fish shop and when you're going to buy something, say, where did this come from? They should be able to give you some sort of answer, even if the answer is, I'll go check. Don't yell at the Saturday boy because he hasn't got a clue where those neon tetras came from. If they say it came from such and such a farm, say to them, is that any good? Is that likely to... And if they're not sure, walk out. We have enough LFS in this country that you can go to the best one possible. It's another thing I don't like about online selling. One online seller has had, and I'm not going to name them, they have had a large number of fish with TB or TB symptoms sent out recently. Not all online sellers, but one. You can't check your fish. They can't check them. They've got large numbers. They're not going to be going around checking every single fish. They should notice before they go out with TB, but they didn't. So check the fish. Make sure that sort of thing. So Don said, yeah, cattle breeding gloves work as well. Yeah, really long ones. Some of those are brilliant as well because you can throw them away. The pond gloves you have to wash each time and all that sort of thing. Yes. So net dips are one of the reasons. Multitude of things you can use for net dips. You can actually buy net dip. I sometimes use a weak solution of meth blue, or just a solution of meth blue. I every couple of weeks everything like nets, pipes, gravel siphons and stuff like that goes in a very big bucket with a standard solution of bleach. So that goes in, say, Saturday night. Sunday, it then goes into a bucket of clean water. Partway through the day, I'll change that bucket of clean water. I might change it twice. And then in the last one, it goes in with like a double dose of Prime or Safe. I use Safe, so I'll chuck in a load of Safe. Because remember, bleach is chlorine based and Safe breaks down the chlorine. That's why I quite like using bleach, because it's something unscented, cheap, thin bleach. I use Tesco's because that can be broken down with dechlorinator, so you've already got a neutralizer there to hand. So yeah, that's what I do every few weeks. I'll do that. With something like TB, even bleach might not be strong enough. So to be honest, once I've finished with these tanks and I'm sure they're safe, all the kit that I've been using on them is going in the bin. It'll be a net. I've just been using tube to do water changes. I haven't been using a gravel siphon and a magnetic cleaner. That's the lot. They'll all go in the bin. If I was to need to treat anything, so say I'd had to cull an entire tank and I had the filters and stuff like that, I'd be using acetic acid, but not at vinegar strength. I'd be getting a higher strength one. Any really strong acid will do. I think last time I used... I needed to disinfect or something, I used white spirits. But there's quite a few things. F10 is another one. Hold on. F10 is always good. I use it for the reptiles, and a lot of reptile keepers will know it. F10, antiseptic solution. I use that one. You can get another one that one's particularly for... I had a tortoise with a respiratory disease. So you actually use that in a nebulizer for them. But... that's you can get one that's a disinfectant that's meant to be really good against TB. Nope. When I say bleach, I mean bleach. I mean Tesco's thin bleach. That's what I use. Yeah, F10's great. Reptile keepers seem to love it. It's the reptile community that we do. But yeah, when I say bleach, I mean bleach. I just use thin bleach on a lot of things, and then I just chase it with dechlorinated water. Water with extra dechlorinator in. You can soak bleach off. The great thing about it is you can smell it. You think how strong chlorine smells when it gets above 2 or 3 ppm? You can smell it. Same with bleach. It doesn't have to be much at all before you can smell it. And crucially, I can throw a bit of dechlorinator in there and it's off. So I don't tend to use things like soap because I can't get rid of them as easily. But bleach, yeah. Just add it more dechlorinator than you need and it's gone, it's neutralized. If you use a very expensive dechlorinator, buy yourself a thing of sodium thiosulfate. It's the same stuff but without the added extras. Like I said, I just tend to use a bit of Safe because it's hanging around. Okay, so TB. Keep up with your water changes, buy decent stock. If you're worried about it, quarantine for 6 months. It's the only thing you can do. If you suspect you've got it, be super careful about you. But don't worry so much about... Sorry, I'm just going to check. I need to check if someone said I can use their photo on Facebook. Really worrying that the F in my keyboard is the one that's gone the most. Huh? The heck is happening here with me? Things are not working today. So yeah, it's one of those that you can't really account for too much. It's one of those annoying things. Right, the next one is super, super vague. And I mean, talk about super vague. It is bacterial infections. Sorry, some Americans say they're not most when they say they mean bleach, they mean Milton's and Simplers. Yeah, so Milton's is most... Off the top of my head, I think Milton's is bleach. It's just diluted down. Thin bleach. Just make sure it's not anything with scent or anything like that. You just want thin... Cheapest stuff you can get is normally the one. Like I say, Tesco's thin bleach for me costs about 20p a bottle. And I go through a lot. I probably use about a couple of quid's worth every fortnight. I can sterilize stuff with it. I use it for the floors, use it for any surfaces that I can get to. It keeps everything super clean. Yeah, too much of the F word is why I bet, you know, it's coming on each morning and I'm logging and going, what problems are there? And I just press the F and my computer takes me straight to Facebook. But yeah, probably. The four-letter F word. It begins with F and it ends with H. It's got IS in the middle. See, people have mentioned... Oh, there you go. Let's see. That's the one I'm after. I'm after one particular one because I wanted to show you guys a picture, but I'm not using someone's picture without... And I have permission. I should have just sent Don to do it. Sorry, Don. I should have just asked you. Would you go and check for me? Because you know which one... You should know which one I'm on about, I think. Right. So, next one is bacterial infections. I didn't throw anything up in particular in this one because it's such a hugely broad range. Two of the things we've talked about here. Bacterial infections, but it is actually one of the big problems we see. A lot of them are down to poor water. Sorry guys, sorry if anyone's out there's got a bacterial infection. I've had them. Poor water conditions does not mean you're a poor fish keeper. We have... It's alright, Don, I sorted it out. We have problems that go on in our tanks. I can't think of anyone on the Modmin team who hasn't had an infection of one sort or another in their tanks. I've had Columnaris when I bought fish from a particular fish store near me, and a mate of mine then bought some from them a few months later. His tank's got Columnaris, and then he gave me fish out of a tank we didn't think was infected, and it was. So yeah, I've had Columnaris, I've had TB, as you know. I haven't had white spot for a while, but I had it when I was a beginner fish keeper several times. I frequently see sap infections. So yeah, I get them. Everybody gets them. The trick is not to sit there and go, my water's fine. It can't be. It's heater burn. By the way, I've never actually seen a heater burn. Never. Honestly, I have never seen heater burn on a fish. I have seen plenty of people say it's heater burn. It's not heater burn. Trust me, that's not a burn. Your heaters, A, aren't that hot, and B, fish do have pain sensors. They're not stupid. If they can feel around to find their food and stuff like that, they can feel when something is burning. If they didn't have pain sensors, Plex in the wild would be frequently sliced open by every sharp bit of glass on the bottom of the river. And trust me, there's plenty. There's Coke cans, there's glass, there's rubbish out there. And they're not all dying of injuries. So, very rarely see heater burn. The only reason I say you have a heater guard is so that when your idiot cichlid slams into it, or your turtle slams into it, it doesn't break the heater as easily. But the problem with heater guards is you can't see when your heater's broken. And then you put your hand in and get an electric shock. Not that that's ever happened to me. Never at all. Never at all at all. So, bacterial infections. You are talking about your ulcers. You are talking about your big gaping wounds. You are talking about your ammonia burns that have then picked up a bit of a bacterial problem. We see... Oh, I tell you, I did add a picture. That one. Okay, not a great picture, but that is a Cory with a sap infection from worn down barbels. It's one of those issues. I'll put up a slightly different one. There you go. Everyone's going to now tell me that's white spot. It's not a bacteria, don't worry. It's not white spot either. That's Dermocystidium. Just while I had it up there. Thought I'd show you. Yeah, I mean, never. I've never stuck my hand in and then gone to, ow. Actually, no, to be honest, normally it's to put my hand in and then scream and pull my hand out. I've luckily never been spasmed by electricity. And that's the danger. You put your hand in, you get that spasm of electricity and you... So this is why I run Inkbirds. Not for any other reason than I can reach out and I can unplug the heater. It's just there. I can unplug the heater before the hand goes in. I was doing really, really well, and then I got a bit of stray voltage off a filter recently. That hurt. But just enough to give me a bit of a belt and then get my hand out. So yes. Bronwyn's princess chewing up fish keeping things. It's not good. It's not allowed. Don ran over a wire with a lawnmower once. That was more than the spasm. Yeah. So my dad's an electrician, specifically an underwater electrician, so a marine electrician. So he mixes water and electricity with depressing frequency. Slightly safer than his original job, which was an underwater blowy stuff up. So, when you're out laying like oil pipelines, you used to lay the charges in ahead of them and then just blow everything up and put the pipelines in. So I don't know which was more dangerous, blowy stuff up or water and electricity mix. But that means as a kid, I grew up with a water electricity mix as being the norm. And you'd quite frequently be working and so all of a sudden Dad would go, "Don't touch me." And I'd go, "Oh, why?" And he'd go, "This wire's live. I'm live." And he can just take it. However, he's got a sick sense of humour. We went to my aunt's a few years ago and she said, "Oh, the light's not working." So he goes up and he does that. If any of you've got electricians in the family, if any of you are electricians, you will be horrified by it. This is how he checks if something's live. And actually grabs it, licks his fingers and grabs it. And he goes, And I'm like, "Oh, what's the for?" So he lets go and walks down. He says, "Go and change that light for me." Bloody hell, I didn't half get a belt. It was only about 40 volts, but it hurt. It hurt enough. He was cackling with laughter. He knew it wasn't bad, but he knew it was going to hurt. So yes, I frequently have seen people get electric shocks, but it's my dad who doesn't seem to hurt. Now, I tend to really tends to hurt. But being my dad, he's put 3 boards in. So we've got we've got the main one in the house. That's the standard one. Then he put one in the pantry, which is the external electricity feed. That should cut off. Then he put one in my office, which should again trip. And then he put one in my fish house that should trip. However, we've had a few lately because there's no earth involved, because they're cheap Chinese rubbish. And because I've got my hand out quick enough, I've not actually managed to trip the Alecki properly. So I need to stop buying cheap Chinese rubbish for various things. It's because I get them to test and because I've got some heaters. A lot of heaters come from China and they are cheap. So yes, all my heaters are gradually getting swapped over to Aquamedics that have not given me a shock yet. There's a praise if you have it at Hydor and Aquamedics. They've not shocked me yet. I think that's the ultimate thing. Yeah, Don's grew up on a farm and I think that might have affected his brain. That was a good one. He held onto an electric fence and the ex's hand while they were walking. Oh, I wish I'd tried that one. One of my exes peed on an electric fence once. That was amusing. That was very much amusing. Yeah. Electricians are just mean. The other thing he does is he'll grind like a piece of metal or something, then he'll hand it to me. They're bloody hot. It's now at the point where I have this reflexive thing, like my dad will hand me something, like it could be like a slice of cake, and I'll be looking at it going, "How's that going to hurt me?" My mum will just take it off my dad and hand it to me with like he was just passing it you. But yes, he deserves that. It is very... Yes. Oh, come on. I know the sort of... Yeah. Don also gets the mick taken out of him because he's really it's only him and Dan who are the big fish keepers now. We used to have like a mix of big fish keepers. Most of us are now little fish keepers. Although I keep some things that are bigger. I'm getting bigger. Not huge though. My tails take up all my huge tanks. That's the problem that I have. Yeah. So yes, anyway, back to the sarcastic one. Bacterial infections. It's about good water quality. Ammonia burns are a really good way for a bacterial infection to creep in. Right, what you will see under the bacterial infections is what I'm recommending. Yeah, can't hold a book today. Book 1, A to Z of tropical fish diseases and health problems. I've put the link in there. Like I say, if you're interested in this. Now, this one, right now, I think I checked the cheapest copy was about 25 quid. Okay, if you want to grab it, because it's obviously not in print anymore. What we tend to do, or I tend to do, is when I see you'll suddenly get a cheap copy, and so I tend to grab them and then send them out to people who've... There's about 4 people right now who said, "If you get a copy of that, can you let me have one?" So I'm waiting for it to go below a tenner. Brilliant little thing. So it does like A to Z of... so it does the A to Z of symptoms. So you can literally go through and have a look at... So, feeding. So there you go. I just... cloudy eye. Cloudy eye commonly accompanies, sometimes preceded, the swelling, which sometimes becomes so extreme that the eye literally pops out of its socket and is lost. Causes of the condition can include eye parasites, something I can't pronounce, systemic bacterial infections such as fish TB or bacterial dropsy. So bacterial dropsy from organ failure caused by a bacteria. So yeah, 8 set of symptoms, and then you can cross-reference that to the diseases. Brilliant little book, that one. Oops, sorry, not mean to try and knock the camera over. That's a relatively new one, and there is a Kindle edition. So, like I say, there is a Kindle book by the guy who wrote this one. I like this one because it's got lots of pretty pickies. I don't mean that to sound as childish, like I'm just going to be here reading the pictures, all that sort of thing. But crucially, it is really difficult to diagnose things from a description sometimes, especially if you've never seen it before. It's alright me saying to myself, like now, if someone said to me scoliosis, I'd be alright with that. I've seen so many cases of scoliosis, I'm more than confident. However, if you just said that to me 6 years ago, I'd have been going, I don't know what that looks like in a fish. So I do like the fact that on this one, every possible disease is shown in about 10 ways from Sunday. So you can get a lot of the different examples. I just skipped past a really good picture of Columnaris then. And it was one of those where I was looking at going, ooh, well, that was what I should have shown you. But yeah, absolutely brilliant book to have. Goes through it by various things that hit fish individually. So if you can have a look at, you can go from different fish that you can have, and then it goes through all that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's the other one I recommend. If you are doing this for more of a uni side of things, that one's quite a good one to get. Can't remember whether... let me check when this was out. I get these in the reptile ones as well, you see. And I can't remember whether it's this one or the reptile one that a new one's just come out. When was this one published? Yeah, reprint 1996. So I suspect there's a new one of these due out very, very soon. The feeding one. Just check. There is the chapter thing. Aquatic environment. I'm sure there's feeding. There's something in here. Yeah, and if you do get this one, the UK legislation's out of date. It was written by Peter Scott, who does know his stuff on UK legislation. It's just that this is times moved on. Oh, there you go. Freshwater Aquaria, page 36, is written by Dave Poole. For those of you who know him. For those of you who don't, he produces Fish Science food. Brilliant food. Owns the company Fish Science. Absolutely brilliant. So they're the books I'd recommend. Get something like that. Get hold of a decent book like that to read. If you don't want to do those, we've got one coming out soon. Genuinely, we have, because bacterial diseases is such a huge area. And I think the one thing I want to focus on in the book that we're writing, we are focusing on, is trying to prevent these things. So before you even got there, stopping these things happening. So there'll be general overall advice, and then there'll be general advice for if this has happened to you before, here's how to stop it happening in the future. So that's one good one. Welding rods. Yeah. We're talking about handing things to each other. Welding rods. They really hurt when people hand them to you. Right, hold on. So someone's asked, did I decide on a pet fish? Someone suggested I'm getting a flower horn. Yes, you know what I said would happen. I don't like flower horns. I don't like parrots. I don't like flower horns. I don't care how many likes that loses me. I don't like them. The reason I don't like them is because I think there are stunning fish in the wild. Stunning fish that exist. We don't have to mess around with them. And also, the amount of cruelty that goes on to parrots is unbelievable. We tattoo them, we strip them of the slime coat and dye them, we cut bits off them. Even if we don't do that, they can't use their jaws properly. And don't give me that whole my fish's mouth can close. It can't use its pharyngeal jaws, which are the ones at the back. And by the shape of the head, parrots can't use the pharyngeal jaws. So you've taken a fish, you've destroyed its ability to use its jaws, you've made its spine so distorted that it moves all its organs around in the body and means that its swim bladder goes so young. It can't talk to other parrots because it doesn't have the right body. Is it a Midas? Does it speak Midas language? Is it a red devil? Is it one of the other possible parent species? Even worse, we're now adding new parent species to it. So the poor bugger is in like this confused state. Fish don't learn to speak to each other from their parents. And even if they did, we don't let parrots anywhere near their parents. So that's a problem. It comes down in genetics. And next thing you know, we say, oh, let's just mix a few things in together. If we took a cat and mixed it with a dog so that it had a completely deformed skull, so we take a pug and we mix it with a Persian, so we get some completely deformed animal, and then we throw a bit of monkey into the mix, people would be up in arms. And yet I get told off every time I say on the page, parrots are awful. And I don't care how many people have rescued them. I've rescued 6. I don't care. They're awful. I'm not saying we should be euthanizing them, but we sure as hell shouldn't be buying them. And flower horns are up there for me as well. Flower horns are slightly better, minusculely better, because the long-bodied normal ones, before they went too far, they could do this weird thing. They could swim. They could open their mouths, and to a certain extent they could communicate between males and females. Right? Here's the new problem. We've made them short-bodied. They can't swim anymore. So you buy a little fish with a small cock, and I'm so going to get demonetized for that. YouTube, that is the name for the nuchal hump. So you can buy a small fish with a small nuchal hump, and then it starts to grow, and grow, and grow. And next thing you know, the nuchal hump is about a third the size of the fish, and the fish is upside down. And I've got people who are in love with those fish because they are very, very intelligent and very, very personable, messaging me going, my flower horn is upside down. And I'm saying there is nothing you can do. Maybe you can look at surgery to get the nuchal hump reduced. Oh, we can't do that. Then you've got to kill that fish. That fish that you and your kids love. Because some tosser bred that. It wasn't a random, I sold you a fish, and then it later grew into something I wasn't prepared for. Someone bred that in a lab or chose the parents. And they did it to such an extent that that fish is going to have a very, very short life. But you know what? For the breeder, that's brilliant. Because you're going to have to come back and get another one very, very soon. If we look at the parent species, we are talking 10, 15, 20 years. If we look at flower horns, the bulk of them are gone within 2. That's not great. So if we're going to breed fish, at least let's make something that can use its own mouth, can swim, and maybe can communicate with each other. And I think I said I wasn't going to rant. But anyway. So yes. Yeah, there you go. Ruth rants. It got tagged. Anyway, I don't like flower horns. I'm not getting one. No, we've had people who've had flower horns on the team. Dan won a flower horn in a competition once, or Dan's friend won a flower, and then it came to Dan's, got to dancer. Sadly, it died young, and he was already in love with that fish. This is the sort of thing that's the problem with them. It winds me up, something chronic. I might consider getting a Midas. There's been some really good suggestions on them. I think where I'm going down the route now is getting a puffer and a cichlid. Different tanks, obviously. That's why I was saying we're going to have a brackish tank. So if anyone can help me choose a puffer, to be honest, I'm leaning towards a figure of 8 or the green spotted. Nothing particularly exotic. I just happen to like from reading up about them, they seem to be ticking the boxes. Cichlid wise, I'm probably almost definitely going to get an Oscar anyway. I want to set back up having a Central American cichlid tank. So I've already got a True Green Terror that is absolutely terrified and has to be isolated. And a Psalm that is absolutely terrified and has to be... Bloody Psalms! They're meant to be big bruisers of the cichlid world. This one gets beaten up by a crib. Seriously, I've got a 200 litre tank. Plenty of places to hide. The Psalm's pressed right now hidden behind the filter. And the crib's patrolling. So the crib's going to have to be moved out, or the Psalm's going to have to be moved out. One or the other. Anyway, Psalm's 4 times the size of the crib now. And it's just hides all the time, little coward. Yeah, John saying people need to stop blindly taking goldfish. Ooh, goldfish. I'd really like it if people stopped buying goldfish. No, I tell a lie. That I wouldn't like it if people stopped buying goldfish. I do think goldfish have a place in the hobby. Really wish people would stop giving goldfish away as prizes. Let's make killifish the new goldfish. Seriously, we need to. We need to make killifish the new goldfish or something else. I think killies are probably the most suitable because short lives. Sounds horrible. But how many times have you heard people say, like, non-fish keeping people, oh, we've had the goldfish for 6 months, I wish it would drop dead. Really do not need that. I would have originally said, let's make bettas the new goldfish, or betas, or beta, or fighting fish the new goldfish. But the problem is with them is they're getting overbred. And that's really, really winds me up. Good quality ones, really well, but then people get two, and you get all those sorts of problems, and people keep them in tiny tanks, because the Americans say you can. No offense to any Americans who know you can't, but a lot of American YouTubers say you can. There was that idiot who released about 30 of them into a pond so that they could all fight each other. Who knows? Anyway, up to it. So, goldfish. I don't think we should breed any fish that can't live a full and healthy life. And that's my genuine, honest to God truth. Even down to like black moors, they frequently catch their eyes on things. And then you've got those ones with, what's the ones with the great big bubble eyes, is it? Got those great big bubbles growing out below their eyes. And then celestials that look up. Have they also got bubbles below their eyes? Can't remember. Anyway. Even down to things like your standard orandas that we get because their wen grows too big. But with the wens, you can trot them off to the vet and have that chopped down a bit to make it more manageable. But do you really want to be having a fish that has to regularly go and have itself groomed at the vets under general anaesthetic? Yay! No, I don't. I think goldfish should be specialist keepers. I think there should be a list of fish that we see as being normal and should be really, really pushed into specialist keepers. I will have a rant about goldfish another day, but not tonight. Everyone will get a bit annoyed at me just yelling. No, I think there's certain species, breeds of goldfish, strains of fancies that I don't think should be out there. One of you buggers shared that picture of that long-tailed arowana. Don't like them. There's a picture going around of a long-tailed Oscar. That'll make me rant. That'll make me go off. I'd rather see parrots than a long-tailed Oscar. Completely destroys that fish's ability to communicate, to move, everything like that. And I really hate parrots, as you might tell. I don't even like certain colour morphs if it starts to impact negatively on the fish. But as long as it's a positive or a neutral impact on the fish, I've got no problems with them. Goldfish, some of them are fine. My big problem, I think, with goldfish is the number that we have to euthanize to get the ones that we keep, even on, like, boring comets that are going to go into someone's pond. Think of the thousands that were brown and didn't make the cut and just got thrown live into a mincing machine, minced up, and chefed straight back in the water for the others to eat. Is that really what we want to be supporting? So, I think goldfish have their place. I don't think it's as a general fish for just about anyone to pick up and keep. I think if they go to the people who are willing to spend the vet treatment and they're not the extreme morphs, then not really any problems with them. Bubble eyes, yeah, that's the one. Ooh, wild type betta. Love them. Love them. I think if I had some small, when I set my small tanks back up, I think I'm going to get some other, the wild type species are better. I mean, to be honest, I've got a sorority of girls. I love them. They're a great tank. There's no overgrown tails. A little bit of aggro every so often. They've settled down. To give you a really stupid story from that one though. So it's a top tank right on the top racking because they like the temperature slightly warmer. Not as high as some people say, but they do like it slightly warmer. So I gave them the top racking. Now, I also put some albino cories in there, some Brochius, and something else in there. I think it was a plec at the time. Yeah, plec. So at the back of the tank, I had this tangle of just black PVC piping that was in to provide hiding spaces, and the cories like it. They'll whiz up and down it and hide in there. So I drained the tank right down, but I left about yay amount of water in it, caught all the fish merrily. I had 5 tetras. It's an unnamed species. They did name it later. When I got them, they were an unnamed species. They're now named. Anyway, they're a gorgeous gold colour. About this big. Moved those 5 on. Presume the 6 that died. Didn't think anything more of it. added this sorority, been adding it over time, and I noticed the tails were getting more and more nipped, and I thought, oh, it's aggression amongst the girls. So so I decide, right, I'm going to spend a day, and I'm going to stand there, and I'm going to find out which of these sods is nipping the others. Because that'll give me a clue, and I can, take her out and put her in her own tank. I'm even thinking maybe one of them's a male, something like this. So I stand there, and I wait, and I wait, and I've been there about 20 minutes. And bloody missing Tetra swims out, doesn't it? And it goes for the females. I mean, one of them was down to the point she had almost no fins. So I've whipped that out. It's now off with a load of cichlids. It's soft water cichlids, don't worry. The Tetra's conditions are fine. I don't know whether to try and get more of those Tetras or just move him onto someone else. Anyway, all the tails are regrow. But yeah, bloody Tetra just swam out the pipes, and it was like, oh, you are kidding me. That's been the problem. It's been going on for ages, and I've been trying to put it out. Yeah, that's a really good example from down there. Long fin predators is like strapping blocks of concrete to a lion's legs. Yeah. And long fin prey would be like strapping them to a horse's legs and then going, oh, aren't you cute? No, you're not. You're effectively disabling a fish because you think it looks prettier. And there's nothing wrong with disabled fish. I mean, we've all got that fish in our tanks that's had something happen to it throughout life, and you're just going to let it live out its life quite happily. But doing this deliberately? I'd love to go, if we did this to dogs, we'd get told off, but there are certain breeds of dogs that I don't agree with as well. You'll often find the things wandering around for me are mutts of various terrier crosses, because generally they have less health issues. So we can't really talk about dogs, but we shouldn't be doing this. It seems to be a relatively modern phenomenon where we go, I know what that animal needs. An extra disability. Let's stop it breathing, stop it swimming, stop it able to feed properly. Let's not make it reproduce without extreme help. It's not a great thing from us. Yeah. It's sad, and it shouldn't be that way. Anyway, back to what we were talking about. Bacterial infections. Just go by the books. It's fine. And the last one is soft water for hard water fish. There might be a rant involved in this in a second. But anyway, just let me do this one first. This one, that's a molly. It's off the group, and as you can see, it's got a curved spine. Now, when we first saw that, there was a little bit of that might be TB. Because that looks a bit like the TB spine. If it also does that and then kinks back up at the tail, you're almost definitely looking at TB. With that, that's probably, 99% confident it's scoliosis, not TB. And that's because if you look along the spine, there's actually quite good muscle mass. It's got muscles along the spine. It's just spine's bent. There is a study in there, 2 studies in there about mollies. About mollies, and there's one about, I think I put it in, factors that can lead to the development of skeletal deformities in fishes, a review. It's a good one. It's well worth a read, that one. I took one of the pictures out of that, by the way. But this one's off a member of the group. He kindly said I could share it. Now, remember I said a few minutes ago, I think there's certain fish that should be relegated to the specialist category? Mollies are one of them. I am a molly nut. Love them. Love the whole genus. Love the way that they can, like some of the alterations. There are certain species of, so mollies and guppies are in the same group. In that group are fish that only have females. They mate with males of a very similar species, but none of those genes cross over. So they effectively, it's a virgin birth, but they actually did mate in the first place. You look at guppies. Look at that triumph of evolution. So guppies, we say guppies get pregnant. Technically they don't, they're gravid. They carry eggs, but they carry eggs right up to the point that they hatch as live young. That's why if you stress out a guppy, she'll actually give birth to eggs. She's carrying eggs inside her. Now that's a really interesting step in evolution. So that fish has developed to a point where they're holding onto the eggs longer and longer and longer and longer until they give birth to fully formed young. And that's absolutely fascinating. There are sulfur mollies that literally live in sulfur springs. There are mollies that live in up to there's 70 parts per thousand salinity, or 80 parts per thousand salinity. They're perfectly happy. They're not happy, but they're all right with it. They're not dead. Some of them will wander river to river. Imagine that. They're so adapted. They can go from freshwater, brackish, into the sea, swim along the coast, and then back up another river. Talk about adaptation. That is just phenomenal. I mean, some of the ones that get out and walk, not mollies, but other species of fish that get out and walk also fascinate me. But mollies, the way they've adapted to all these different areas, absolutely fascinates me. Love them. Love the different species. If anyone out there has any saffron mollies that they, pass over. Sailfin mollies, really good quality ones. Yucatan mollies, missing them. The reality is, though, joking aside, I mean, don't get me wrong, if anyone has them, let me know. But I probably would have to say no. Why? Because they need a very specialist setup. They need a setup that is probably going to be about as difficult as marine, maybe a little bit more. Because they need to go from saline to fresh over their life. Not once, but several times. So every few months I'd be having to take that tank from saline through brackish back into fresh. And then vice versa. Or maybe I'd whip the fish out, change it all over to fresh, put them back. Because actually if I drip acclimated them, they'd take it. But that's a hell of a lot of work for something we consider to be a common fish. So the common molly, sure I've got a picture of what... So, common molly. When you go in, you go by common molly, you get a little black fish. And you expect it to look not like that. That's the common molly. And the reason the common molly looks like that and not the black one is the black one you buy as a hybrid. And it's between that, which is a freshwater fish, and a saltwater fish, or a more saline loving fish. So which genetics have you got? So not only do they take a fish that is really difficult to keep healthy anyway, they then go and cross it with a fish that has got a completely different set of requirements. So I've got my little favourite sign around here. Okay? I say it often enough. I say it so often that, I've now got a sign of it. But for these fish, when you tell me, I'm not going to be able to tell you what you should have. Other than you shouldn't have ammonia, you shouldn't have nitrates, and you shouldn't have nitrate, or very many nitrates. These are another one. Once they go above about 20 ppm on nitrates, they start to struggle. Most across the board of mollies. Do they need it to be brackish? Do they need it to be fresh? Well, which set of genetics did your fish get? I don't know. You don't know. The shop doesn't know. The breeder doesn't know. Because they've been crossed for so long. So why do we still have mollies in the hobby? Because they can survive anything for a short period of time. And because, as a whole group, guppies are notorious for it. You buy a guppy, it drops its fry. After about 8 weeks of age, they will start to drop fry. 8 to 12 weeks, you're going to have a load of fry through. So they only need to survive for 12 weeks. 6 to 12 weeks, actually, is, I think, the range we talk about. 12 weeks, and it's already dropped its fry. It can now go die evolutionary-wise. It's already passed on its genetics. So, with these, the reason they're so popular in the hobby isn't because they're a great fish to keep, isn't because they thrive, it's because they survive, and they breed while they're doing it. I can literally take some species of mollies and drop them in sulfur springs and they will survive. In fact, they will thrive because they need that. Take those same fish and put them in soft water. They will probably survive long enough to give you one batch of fry. And that's all evolution and a breeder requires them to do. We don't see those big, beautiful mollies anymore that we used to when people kept them in approximately the right conditions. You want to get that? You want to get those mollies, those ones in particular, and you want them to get them to breed and thrive and grow to big 6-inch long fish. 4 to 6 inches they'll reach. Just keep them in super hard water. Regular water changes, very low levels of nitrates, super hard water, and an algae diet. People forget that. They'll eat and survive on most things. They actually eat mostly algae in the wild. That's why people put them into marine tanks. Because they eat algae. Yeah, it's one of the problems. So, what do we think was wrong with that fish? It's a nutritional deficiency, probably from soft water. Or from bad diet. One or the other. That's the problem I'm saying they eat algae. Guppies suffer a lot from vitamin C deficiency because we don't put enough vegetable matter in their diet. It's one of the problems that we do with them. Do I keep guppies? Yeah, most of the time. I haven't got any right now. Most of the time I've got wild caught guppies in, actually. I do like them. I keep them in very hard water. I have a good growth of algae in there. I feed them a bit of Diphinia and stuff like that, live food. I make sure my Diphinia has been feeding on a lot of algae before I feed it to the guppies. I offer them any vegetable-based foods I can. Like I said, I'm a bit of a fan of Rapashi, quite like it. So there's a Solent green one for Malawi. I'll put a bit of that in. And they thrive. I had a swordtail once that was 5.5 inches long, and she used to pop out 300 fry every 6 weeks. Regular clockwork. And they all looked exactly like her. She was brilliant. Interestingly enough, she only ever mated with the one male. Because I kept some of the fry males back just to see, because I got curious. And she only ever mated with that one male. And there's another brilliant thing about it. Did you know guppy females can mate with multiple males and then internally select the sperm of the most distantly related male? That's a mind-blowing thing. How the hell do they do that? But yeah, she can actually select just the sperm of the most distantly related male going to keep the genetic pool going as far as possible. So mollies are very tuned to selecting outside their own family. And we're still managing to make them inbred. That's pretty good going. When a creature's got a specially designed, mind-blowing mechanism to keep the genetics as diverse as possible, and we managed to make them inbred. Well done us. It's taken us about 200 years, but 150 years? But yeah, we're doing well on this one. Yep, Garza's similar. Eggs hatch just before birth. Yep, there's quite a few in the reptile community where they hold it, but it's interesting to think about. I mean, one of the big topics I used to teach was evolutionary anthropology. One of my big, and I'm not going to go into it too depth on here, this is a fish keeping channel, but it was how grass led to the evolution of humans. So it used to be like a series of 6-week-long series of lectures. If anyone wants to hear about it, message me. I'm thinking of throwing it up on one of my other channels. But there is that stage where mammals went from egg layers to, when the creatures that would become mammals went from egg layers to placental mammals, where we actually carry our young. And it's fascinating the things that went along that stage. And there is quite a few arguments about the finer detail of how that would have happened. But we can almost see a parallel, not the same thing, but a parallel in what's happening in the fish. In that they're holding on to their young longer and longer and longer. And we've already got fish that nurse their own, in that discus produce a slime that the young feed off. So when young discus are hatched, they feed off the parent's slime coat. Now, imagine that gets more and more and more concentrated, and eventually there is like a special organ just to produce that. Then you can see how breastfeeding effectively came about. So in our fish, we can see these stages of evolution in our own tanks, and because there's so many different ones and so many different things happening, we can see everything from ones that just scatter their eggs and then bugger off and leave them, through to ones that give birth to live young, through to ones that give birth, lay eggs, but then have that parental care side, and ones that are now effectively the very, very early stages of breastfeeding their young, but both male and female do it. We have, in Salty, we have fish that the males are carrying the eggs and giving birth. We've got all sorts of fascinating things happening. But mollies and guppies need hard water. There's no way around it. Because they've evolved in hard water, and I'm going to throw in anything from the Rift Lakes as well. Throw this one. I'm even going to say things like Central American cichlids, they need harder water. Did you know that green terrors, one of the family of green terrors, Andonicara, is actually can thrive in brackish water as well. So you start to think of the hardness some of them need. So I've got very, very soft water. I always buffer up for my Central Americans. My shiners I buffer up for. My Central Americans I buffer up for. I have to buffer up for my turtles. Some of them can actually lose shell condition. Their shells will start to get pitted. I've got 4 turtles. I didn't realise how hard they needed the water. They've actually got shell infections now. They're getting cured easily now because I'm just adding extra limestone flour for them. Because it doesn't matter if they go along and munch on a bit of calcium. That's great. They've ate it. Woo! Yeah, don't say some snakeheads are a bit Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the fish keeping hobby and the reptile hobby are hand in hand. It is. There is a lot of it. I'm right now talking to someone who organises a lot of reptile shows, and because I'd really love to have a fish show, like, because like we'll be honest, fish shows aren't doing great numbers, whereas the reptile shows 3,000 to 5,000 people at Doncaster each time. Wouldn't it be amazing if we could have like a little mini show somewhere along either a reptile show or maybe even maybe even I talk to the right people at Doncaster. So you guys could come into Doncaster, have a bit of a look at the reptile show stuff, and then come and have a look at the fish stuff. I don't know. On that side of things, I haven't spoken to anyone about Doncaster, but I have spoken about maybe another show where it's going to be a big reptile show and a fish keeping side. That'd be great, because there's enough of us that do both. Keep us happy. Yeah. I didn't know snakeheads were secreting mucus on their foreheads. Yeah, that's a bit weird. In another million years, that's going to be a very interesting conversation between the new rulers of the earth, the snakeheads with the nipples on the forehead, and the remnants of the human population. That's going to be a great conversation. But, yeah. And if anybody wants a really weird fiction idea, there you go! So, one thing... So, actually, I'm going to say something that was said on the group, and it got me a little bit, and it's not a big rant. It's a mini rant. It's a please be nice rant, but I often see people, we've had a load of people come on to the group, and I apologise for anyone watching this on YouTube who's not on the Facebook group, Tropical Fish Keeping UK. But on that group, and I suppose it happens on all groups, we get a lot of people coming up saying people should be nicer. Someone just puts up their tank and then everyone said it was badly stocked. We had a gentleman come on who'd been keeping fish for like, I don't know, 40 odd years or something, and then instantly got upset when people said, I don't care how long you've been keeping fish, that's a bad mix of fish. How did we know it was a bad mix of fish? Because he had hard water species with discus and tetras and things like that. Now, this kills the fish. This is the reality. Water hardness. These fish have evolved to take in nutrients. Now, have we all heard recently the case of the kid who went blind because he only ate junk food? Okay, that was a nutritional deficiency. Nobody is saying that his diet was a good thing, right? What if I told you someone never went out in the sun? You're immediately going to go, oh, they've got problems with rickets because of vitamin D. What if I told you that I knew someone who'd never ate fruit and veg? You know that's a problem because of deficiencies. With fish, they get their nutrients in two ways. One, through their diet, but most importantly, for a lot of the nutrients, they get it just from the surrounding water. They have so much water going in that they can just extract the calcium and stuff like that straight from their surrounding environment. If you then put them in soft water, they'll actually lose that stuff to the outside environment because they're not evolved to not lose it. But crucially, they can't take as much in. Then top off with our average diet. Last week I was talking about it. We feed our fish rubbish. We go online and we buy a kilo of rubbishy flake, and then we go on the group and go, oh, I got such a bargain. And I'm thinking, really? It's effectively like coming on and going, I've fed my kids 99p burgers off the McDonald's Saver menus for the last 10 years. Aren't I great? No. No one's going to say it's great. I'm not saying fish are as important as kids before someone says, she was comparing fish to kids. All I'm saying is we have this awareness of how important it is to keep deficiencies at bay for humans. And yet when I suggest that we need that the same deficiencies can impact our animals, I get this whole, you should be nicer. Okay, I will always, I try and be nicer. You'll often find me say, are you open to some criticism? Are you open to some ideas to how make things better? Some people say no. In which case I say, right, well, you don't care, but for anyone else reading this post, here's why this is a bad idea. And it's making a difference because I'm noticing you guys are stepping up and now giving this advice, and that's absolutely amazing. That it's not just me parroting on about these things, but think about each of you guys. I mean, Bronwyn, you're just saying you're printing everything out. That means when you're in a different scenario and you're on a different group or something and someone asks this question, you can go, oh, and you can teach another 10 people about that sort of stuff, and then maybe some of them will get interested and they can go on and teach, and we can literally just spread these ideas. Treat knowledge like a virus. Let's try and spread it. I mean, to give you an idea how embedded our learning is, did you know that they found that Merseyside, where I live, is 10% less skeptical of Europe because we don't read the Sun, because it's a rag, and Hillsborough and all that side of things. For those who don't know, we boycotted a particular newspaper called The Sun since they printed a headline blaming football fans for something that turned out to not be the football fans' fault. Because not everybody knows about Hillsborough and Liverpool. And because of that, we won't read The Sun. And if anyone, I mean, like our local, I've got a lovely little local magazine stand, not magazine stand, a corner shop thing, sells newspapers. And they got a new sign put up by the people who own the firm, and it was The Sun. And the guy was out the next day painting over it himself before it got vandalised. That's how anti The Sun we are around here. And because of that, we're now, as Merseyside, 10% less sceptical of Europe because we're not just reading one source of news. Now, what's the hell's the point of that? In fish keeping, think about where the big sources of news come from. Okay, PFK. Which PFK do great stuff. They have great contributors, says the person who occasionally contributes. They have great information, but they don't reach everybody. So where does the bulk of the news come from? Now? Rubbish Facebook groups. That's where the bulk of the news comes from. There is about between 8 and 10 million fish keepers in the UK alone. We have 53,000 of them. That's a drop in the ocean compared to the rest. So what we need to be doing is spreading this news to everybody else. And I think I'd love it if I had a scenario where I could reach 10% of the people who own fish in England. I often say they're not, in my opinion, fish keepers. They're just people who own fish. I'd like to be reaching 10% of them in various ways. And if it's YouTube, if it's the group, whatever. Eventually, I want to have that bigger reach so that we can start to educate people, to educate other people, to educate other people. Yeah, that's the other thing, shops. Absolute pains in the backside on that one. And I don't know the cure for that one, and I'd love to say, oh, this is the solution. If you are paying someone minimum wage, they are not going to spend their nights researching. As the general truth. They are not going to spend their nights researching if they're getting barely minimum wage and they hate their job. Oh, come on, we've all done a job we hated. I can think of several that I wouldn't have spent a moment outside my work. So then we're expecting retailers who can barely afford, who don't pay their staff living wage, they just pay the minimum wage, to then spend extra on training them on all these different things? Not going to happen. I do think, like I say, I'm a bit less sympathetic to that, though, than you might think, because I've never got an animal without a lot of research. I'm at the wrong end of the spectrum for this. My mum was joking at the fish shop. I was finding out what was coming up in the next few weeks so I could do the research on anything I wanted. And my mum was joking that, like, it takes me 12 months to choose a new purse and things like that, which it does. I will hold my hand up and say it takes me a long time to decide on things. Come on, ladies out there. It's a big decision when you change your purse. You know, live with that every day and stuff like that. But for my fish, I do probably too much in the way of research. Because I'll frequently talk myself out of a species before I get it. It's just a problem. I'm going to be all keyed up for a species and then I'll read one paper that says there may be slightly more. And no, I don't want that one. It's slightly more susceptible to such and such a rare disease that's never going to appear in my tanks. Yeah. There you go. There's a problem. But anyway. But I've never, unless it's been like someone's knocked on my door and dumped something on me, I've never had an animal without months and months of research, minimum months and months. I'm thinking, I've always had Jack Russells or Terriers. I'm thinking of getting a different species of dog. I'm not going to do that for another 2 years to give me time to research, to choose the correct one. I think because fish are so cheap, we don't bother with the research, and I think that's a problem. I do think now, there you go, see Bronwyn's with me. Take take ages to choose a new purse because it's like crucial. Because if you get a big purse, then it'll fit everything in it, but then you can't fit it in a little handbag. And because women's clothes have no pockets, you can't put it in your pocket. And if you get a black purse, it looks cool and it won't show up the fingerprints from when you've been carrying it because you've got no pockets. But then if you put it in a handbag, you can't see it. So you get a light coloured purse so you can see it in the handbag and then it shows up all the fingerprints. See? Men don't have these problems. Well, maybe you guys do. I just don't know about them. Feel free to rant about your wallet buying experiences. This is the problems. Yeah, parents who get a fish for their 3, 4, 5-year-olds. Yes, some are good and do the right thing. Most get a bunch of fish for a tiny uncycled tank with a rainbow bridge or a SpongeBob pineapple. I once in one Secret Santa, I got a SpongeBob pineapple, like a little mini ornament. I've still got it. It sits up in my thing. And I think that sums up like the average fish keeper for me. It used to sit on my desk. And I think I'm going to put it back there because when I'm writing, because we're starting the website again, we've got the forum, we've got the shop. We're going to start the website again, and I'm going to be blogging on there relatively frequently. And when I'm writing blogs, I constantly look at that SpongeBob and go, I'm not always talking to you guys. You're over there, your comments are over there, and I'm not always talking to you guys who know fish and know that I electrocute myself all the time and stuff like that. I am sometimes talking to Jim, who's thinking maybe getting a goldfish for his kids because, hey, it's an easy to keep pet. And I think it's Jim's mind that I really need to change, not you guys. The only thing I need to convince you guys of is that you need hard water for hard water fish and soft water for soft water fish. That's the thing. Yeah. So Don said he's had the same wallet for 10 years. There you go, that's fine. You see, and the other problem is with purses, got these little slidey pockets to put, like I presume guys' wallets have them as well, that you have like little slides to put your cards in. Sounds great, but they rip because they're really thin leather. Anyway, this is a fish keeping channel, not a problems with choosing a purse channel. I do apologise for people who don't want to know the problems of choosing purses, or the fact that women's clothes have no pockets. Anyway. So, yes, guys finding out far more than they wanted to know, which is actually far less than on one group I was on where we really went into too much detail for the men in the group. So, what do I think about like people going out and buying right? Did I mention before? I think killifish should be the new goldfish. And this is why, because killifish are small. If I get one of those little B&M tanks. And I put a couple of killifish in there, the smaller species I'm talking about, not the larger species, but smaller species of killifish, they're going to do okay for their life. They're not going to be brilliant. I wouldn't advise it if that's But if that's happened, I'm not going to cry. Whereas I'm probably going to cry a little bit if I see someone with a goldfish in there. It's going to really upset me that they've got like a full-size goldfish in one of those tiny little tanks, and I know there is. If you guys want to share something, head over to Emma Judd's... Ooh, which one did she put it on? I shared it at some point. Yeah, go onto the page and look for Wanda Doesn't Love This. I think I did the hashtag on that one. Emma Judson did a really nice info on like why Wanda doesn't love those tiny tanks. And I think it was over Wilco's who did a thing, and it said on the side, Wanda will love this on the fish tank. And it was gorgeous, and it was like, Wanda doesn't love this. And that's why. So, killifish, they'd probably be alright. The bioload is so low that they'll do fine with an uncycled tank. Their lifespan is so short that if the kids get bored in 6 months' time, then it's alright. The fish are probably not going to last that much longer anyway. So mum or dad can put up with a bit of fish keeping duties until the fish pop their clogs. They're going to be alright. The last one on its own is going to be fine. So if you've got 3 or 4 and like they die one after the other, the last one on its own is going to be fine for however long it lasts. But crucially, if the kids are really fascinated, then they can breed them, get eggs, and the next generation. And I think as the gateway into fish keeping, killies are far better than pretty much anything else I can think of. I'm open to other ideas. Change my mind. That's not I'm defending killies and I'm not going to change my mind. But I think that's where I'm leaning right now. Plus, you can buy eggs off eBay. And they'll hatch. People who say those eggs never hatch off eBay, no, they'll hatch. They're fine. They don't have a great hatch rate, some of them. But yeah, during the very hot weather, some people were getting them. And the problem is they were hatching in the post. And then the fish were obviously not doing too well when they arrived. But yeah. I mean, I think killies should be the new goldfish. Yeah, That's the thing. See, my problem with platies or guppies as the new goldfish is they need specific conditions. They're not specialist. They are a more specialist fish. So they need hard water. They need a reasonably specialist diet to thrive. And what are they going to do with the thousands and thousands of offspring? Now, I've also got an opinion on breeding guppies. Don't. Right. Okay, I'm going to qualify that statement. If you are breeding for special strains, if you are breeding particular colour morphs, if you are a nut on live bearers, then I'm not talking to you. I am talking to people who've gone to your LFS, your local fish store, and you've bought a male, 3 females, you've put them in your tank, and they're gravid. And you're going, oh, she's going to burst soon, what should I do? Right, so problem 1, they're probably related. There's probably so little between the parents are probably related. They're probably out the same batch of fry. So you've now got more inbred from inbred guppies. They might not breed true, because you probably don't know what tail colour that female was, because females are shipped as one lot. So you just buy like a lot of females and a group of males. You very rarely get told what the tail colour is off the females. So even if she's not related, then she's probably not the same tail colour, and she will have some genetic propensity towards the colours. So you're now going to get a mixed bunch of colours. You don't know what the tails are going to be like. If they are cheap guppies, they may well be infected, so it's not a really great idea to be selling them on. But even if they're not, let's assume they're healthy. Are you going to sell them? Think how cheap it is for the retailers to get them in. They get them in for pennies, so they're not buying them off you. They probably won't even take them because of the risk of disease coming out of your tanks into theirs. You are going to struggle to sell them on anything, because you can't sell them on Facebook anymore. You can sell them on our forum, forum.tropicalfishkeeping.co.uk. Head over there, join in. There's been some nice fish up for sale on there, by the way, everyone. There's been some things I've wanted myself. Been some nice fish sold on there, so I couldn't get them, but some nice fish on there. Sorry, I'm a bit blunt with that one. So let's say it's taking 8 weeks for it to go from birth to dropping its first loss of fry. And let's say we're getting a low end, you're getting 30 fry per generation, and they're coming out equally male and female. They normally don't. They normally come out female heavy. A fully grown female will be dropping up to 300 fry. So she gives birth to 30, and 15 of those 8 weeks later give birth to 30. And 8 weeks later, out of those 15 times 15, 225, they give birth to 15. And now my maths has just run out of options. But you're talking about 4 months later, you've just had 225 females alone each give birth to 15 more females. So you're at nearly 500, well, probably over 500 fish in your tank after 4 months of constantly laying. This is assuming you save them all. They're inbred to hell. And you've just had another, what's, so 225, so 200 times 10 would be 1,000. 200 times 10 would be 1,000. Well done. 200 times 10 would be 2,000. So you're looking about 3,500 fry in your tank now. Are you culling the deformed ones? Probably not. Even if you are, you've still got 3,500, 4,000 fish now. What are you going to do with them? Genuinely, what are you going to do with them? Do you have the foods for them set up? No? What are you doing? Liquid fry number 2? Probably. Or crushed up flake? Well, that's a really healthy diet for a fish that feeds on insects. Okay? So, you're not giving them a good start in life. You're not going to be able to get rid of them all. So why are you saving them? Genuinely, why are you saving them? So yeah, please don't. If you've got guppies and mollies or anything like that in your tank and you're keeping them in the nice hard conditions, then just throw plenty of plants in. The strongest fry will survive and the rest won't. But generally, I wouldn't bother. Okay. Yeah, Don saying you wanted the fire eels that were on the forum. Yeah, there was a few cichlids. They're not too far, and there was some lovely plex not too far either. In fact, the plex might still be there. I'm getting tempted, but I haven't got the right tank set up for them. So yeah, if you've got anything like that, and you're looking at you thinking I need to get breeding nets and stuff like that, then look at it realistically, and especially if you've got kids. Here's a realistic question. I get a lot of parents saying to me, "Oh, well, the kids want to see the miracle of life." What are you going to do with the deformed ones? You're going to kill them in front of you'll kill them in front of the kids, or are you going to keep them going? So you might be saying, "Oh no, I'm going to keep them going. I'm going to keep them alive. They will have a home in my tank forever." Did I just say you had 4,000 fish within about 4 months? And that number's going up. So you got 4,000 fish after 4 months. Oh, and by the way, remember, I'm just doing the next generation down. Remember, the previous generation's laying as well. So you've now got 4,000 fish, 2,000 of which are female. I've lost my maths. It might have been 4,000 females for all now. Let's say 2,000 females after 4 months. Okay? And by now, some of them are getting big, so actually they're starting to lay more. So they're now laying on average 50 fry per gestation period. Great. So you've now got, leave that 2 months for everyone to grow up. And your 2,000 females, laying an average of 50 fry each, are now 10,000 females. Do the maths, people. You've run out of tanks. You ran out of tanks about 5,000 fish ago. And that's the reality. And you're now spending all your time developing really, really good quality foods for 10,000 inbred fish that you can't get rid of. I don't think guppies should be sold as easily as they are. Males, yes. I've got no problems with selling males. Randy little buggers that tend to bug everything in the tank. They're not a great fish. But sell the males. Stop selling the females, fish shops. Come on. Nobody wants them. Nobody really, really wants them. And if they go, "Oh, but my kids want to see the miracle of birth," we'll tell them to come back when they know exactly what they're doing, and you'll sell them something that needs, like, some Goodeids, extinct in the wild. You'll sell them Goodeids, because the yellow split fin's relatively easily available. Extinct in the wild, you'll increase the population in captivity. There are plenty of other options, but let's take it out. Danios was quite a good one. That one was as a decent suggestion. They do get quite big, though. Some species of Danio get to a fair size. Killies stay small. Danios are quite an active swimming fish, so I wouldn't be keeping Danios in anything less than a 2-foot tank. Preferably bigger. Quite an active, but also relatively cold water as well for a lot of them, temperate rather than tropical. So I suppose they could be kept without a heater. But yeah, it's one of those that I've been going over and over and over in my mind and thinking about this one. So right, what time are we on? How long have I... Oops, I've ranted for nearly 2 hours. I haven't ranted the whole lot. But yes, so what can you do? So choose... So back to softer water killing fish. Choose your fish based on your water parameters. Or, like me, I don't want to keep all soft water fish. I keep a lot of soft water fish, but sometimes I just fancy something a bit different, like Central American cichlids or pufferfish or something like this. So, I'll give you an example of how daft it sounds when people say to me, I want to keep soft and hard water fish together. If I came up and went, I want to keep marine fish together with freshwater fish, you don't think I was a nutcase, and rightly so. So we are perfectly happy that there is a split when we need extra salt, but not when we need extra calcium. So we will happily have separate parts of the shop for fish that need salt, or higher levels of salt, versus fish that need lower levels of salt or no salt. We're fine with that. But when fish need higher levels of calcium and lower levels of calcium, I'm the mad one. Possibly I am the mad one. But that's not the reason I'm the mad one. So let's start treating hard water fish the same way as we do marine, mentally. Let's not keep marine and freshwater together, and let's not keep hard and soft water together. Okay? Let's not even keep brackish and freshwater together, and let's not keep hard and soft water together. There are plenty of fish that will live in the middle perfectly happily. And if you want an easy life, find out what your water is on average and go with that. Okay? If you're worried your water changes, go for harder fish that will go from your water and harder, not your water and softer, because you can always buffer up. I've got super soft water. I just add buffers and up it goes. If I need anything really soft, I do use RO. But nice and straightforward. If you have hard water, pick hard water fish. There's some gorgeous options out there. If you don't want to have hard water, then RO. Half your tap water, half RO, or whatever mix you need to make it softer. So, would the fish, through breeding, get used to the hardness of the water? Totally, after about 1 million years. And that's no exaggeration. I would happily do that after 1 million years. Dogs have one of the most mobile genetics going. Cichlids are up there. Cichlids and dogs, I think, have got the most mobile genetics. And what that means is through breeding, they will rapidly evolve to do a different niche. It's only about 30 years that you can get dogs, foxes. Did a study, if you look on an evolution of dogs, I think it's on YouTube somewhere, they bred foxes to be more tame for the fur farms, and they actually found that they went like patchy, looked like Jack Russell Terrier coats quite rapidly. Their ears flopped down and they became super tame within only about 30 years. It was really quick evolutionary wise. Now, but even then, even with dogs that are super mobile genetics and have been evolving alongside us for between 10,000 and 100,000 years, depending on which study you believe and which theory you go with and which breed you're talking about, because some breeds have been evolving longer than others. Even then, we still need to give them the right diet. They still have certain things we can't do to them. They still have very much basic needs. You can put your dog on a vegetarian diet, but it's not going to do very well. So with fish, will breeding adapt? To a certain extent, to the point that they'll live in it, but will they thrive in it is a completely different point. One of the famous German farms for discus is a good example of this. They breed their fish in harder water than we'd keep wild discus. They've been doing it for quite a while, and they now say theirs is the better way to keep them. But I know people who've then got those fish and put them in the conditions that wild discus would live in, and they've been stunning. If you take things like neon tetras, they've been bred in the wild, in captivity for yonks. They're really popular, really commonly bred in captivity, have been for yonks. Quite a short gestational period, so we've had lots and lots of generations in that time, because they're egg layers, so we can get them into condition and spawning again reasonably quickly. Take them out of super soft water with a super low pH and they get neon tetra disease. Keep them about pH 5 in a black water and they're fine. They thrive in that. Whereas actually, if you take them out of those conditions, I'd say they're more surviving than thriving, but they will survive quite well. But they are a completely different fish if you keep them in a black water environment. So, can we breed it out of them? Yes. But it ain't happened yet, and it ain't happening in our lifetimes, and it probably isn't happening this millennium. But more importantly, do we need to even bother? Okay, let's take Malawi. Mabuna. One of the ones that winds me up. Cichlids. Can cardinal tetras be kept in hard water? Nope. Really don't do well cardinal tetras in hard water. I wouldn't. Hard water, soft water fish to hard water is slightly better, is a lot better than hard water to soft water. But it's still not great, and it does shorten their lives. It's like beta. We were having a discussion on this page about between beta breeders, and they were saying beta, 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 whatever, fighting fish. And they were saying they do keep their fish in hard water, but they only live about half their loss of the standard lifespan. And I'm thinking, no, wrong. Because I think we should be giving them the best. Okay, so I've got super soft water. I've got the whole of the South American continent open to me to a certain extent. I've got the whole of fish keeping open to me to a certain extent. Because I can just buffer up. I have a little tub of JBL Aquador. What parameters do I want? Okay? Say you've got hard water. You've got a couple of options. Chuck an RO meter into your fish tank and you've got whatever you like. But let's say you don't want to be messing around with your fish tank. Okay, so what have you got? You've got the live bearers. They'll do good in hard water. You've got Malawi cichlids. You've got Tanzanian cichlids. You've got Malawi, Victorian cichlids. Oh, little trannies are gorgeous. I can't remember what the full name is, but look them up. Transvestius cichlids. Gorgeous little fish. Need very low pH. You've Western Africa's out, so your cribs and things like that are out. You've got a lot of the Asian species. A lot of them are hard water. You've got a lot of the American species, so shiners, things like that. You're not limited to just a particular thing. Tom's got reasonably hard water. He keeps rams, gouramis, rams, gouramis. He keeps, I think he keeps loaches. You can keep a lot of loaches in harder water. What's the one I'm thinking of? Panda cories. He loves his cories. He can't have them all, but you can find the different ones out there. So to make your life easier and the lives of the fish so much better, just find out what your water is. Find out what it ranges. Just check it. Just a little point for everyone. Go on your water. So I'm United Utilities. Head onto there. Put my postcode in. It pops up and tells me exactly what my water is. And exactly what my water will vary between. You should be able to do that for anyone in the UK. I will be honest, I'm not sure whether Northern Ireland and Scotland have got the same thing. I know England and Wales do. Thank you, Don. Nanochromis transvestius. That's the one. I love those fish. Absolutely adore them, and they love my water. So they're perfectly happy with that one. I think actually, sorry, I might have said that one wrong. I think Victoria might be soft water, but Victoria. But Malawi and Tanganyika, they're hard water, and they love harder water. Like I say, head over towards the Asian fish. And look, even Central American, depending on how hard your water is. So there's something for them. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Straight Talking Fish. Dissection of neon and cardinal tetras has revealed damaged kidneys in specimens kept in hard water. It's a pain, but with so many fish out there. And also what I think is quite nice, so sometimes I'll set up a tank and then I'll be looking at it going, it needs something more. And it's quite nice to sort of wander around the fish keeping internet going, ooh, I'd not thought of them, and ooh, I'd not thought of them, and ooh, that's a really good option. And it can be really, really fun to have a look. I was looking for something to keep with my... can't remember what it was. Anyway, I came across a blog and it went, oh, pea puffers. I'm going to get some pea puffers, and I came across a blog where he'd kept them really successfully with coolie loaches. So I thought, oh, check with a few people, and they were going, yeah, I've kept pea puffers and coolie loaches. Seem to do fine. The coolie loaches can bugger off when the pea puffers go near them. So, okay, it's not biotope, but the parameters match up, and it should be, yeah, and I've got a tank with coolie loaches in already, so it could really work. So Bronwyn's saying she's got super soft water. Hey, like I say, so if you wanted to keep it super soft, you need to do more regular water changes or your KH will crash. So you've got... so running around on my tanks, the ones you'd like... so don't correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember. I haven't set my pea puffer tank up yet, but I think that would be alright. Or is that the one I need to buffer up? Can't remember. Too much research in my head right now on different ones. But the ones that are definitely okay on the soft water... my best sorority. They love it. Chocolate. I've got one tank that seems to be the food one. Chocolate and licorice gouramis, cherry shrimp, and chili rasbora. And I didn't mean the cherry shrimp to be in there. I thought I'd taken them all out. Turned out I'd missed a load of the youngsters. They're doing fine. But yeah, chocolate and licorice gouramis. They're both, but they tend to be species only. Don't put them in a general community. For betters also. Then on the other side, tetras, cories, epistogramma, rams. Certain species of killie. I'm basically just mentally going up there. Just hit South America and enjoy. For soft water, basically. South America, enjoy. Heart's content. Geophagus, yeah, piles of different things that will like it. Victoria. I did say I was on painkillers. Can't expect me to do. I'm on painkillers. I'm an idiot. I fell over. But yeah. So, and yeah, those nanochromis, if you've got super soft water, they'll like it. They are tiny though, so they'll be like a nice mouthful for most community fish, but yeah, it's all that one. Bolivian rams don't get huge, so as long as you get adult tetra, then they shouldn't be able to eat them. Right. Community fish that are... Yeah, West Africa is softer waters. Cribs like stupidly soft as well. They'll do okay in harder, but they like stupidly soft. So community fish that are okay in hard water depends how hard. But let's say you're at the hard. So we have soft. So we have super soft, soft, moderately hard, hard, very hard. So let's say you're at hard, which is in the middle. Community fish that would be alright with you. There's a few loaches that are fine. Gourami. Any of the decent live bearers. Avoid guppies, but most decent live bearers and any salinity liking mollies. But yeah, your standard mollies would be fine with that one. Piles of different live bearers that are like that. Stone loaches would quite like it. Pandacories. Tom does alright with them and he's in hard water. Celestial Pearl Danios. I would die if I didn't say... I'd be murdered. I think Celestial Pearl Danios do alright in Tom's water. Sorry about you just using Tom as the example. I'll tell you what, easy way. Go on the group, find Tom and just ask him what he keeps. He's got plenty of hard stuff. We are working... Tom's working on a chart that you can just look down. So pick your hardness and it'll have a group of fish that are suitable for you. That sits in there. Yeah, out of those two, I'd go with Bolivian Rams. Gouramis can be little buggers. I do love mine. I absolutely do mine. I'm sitting in front of the tank a few days ago. So I bought 10. I bought 4 chocolates and 6 licorice. Now, it's the tank. If anyone's seen my tank online, it's the one with all the leaf litter. So they just vanished into the leaf litter, and I haven't seen hide nor hair of them. Haven't got the chili raspberry yet. I'm getting them soon. So, I'm sitting there, and one little chocolate comes out, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I got 1 chocolate. And 2 chocolate come out. So this is over the week, this is. So by the time I've had them 2 weeks, I'm sitting there and I've got 3 chocolate gourami and 1 licorice that I've seen. And you know when you manage to convince yourself that everything else has died? And I'm thinking, right, so I bought 10 fish and 4 are alive. What sort of rubbish fish keeper am I? So I went and got myself a cup of tea, sat in front of the tank and decided it was alright. I was really enjoying the chocolates. I was going to chill out and just watch. And one after the other. And I ended up with 3 chocolates out and 5 licorice. So there's only 2 I haven't seen yet. But yeah, little buggers. But they are really nice. Tiny. Yeah, so I mean, let's get another tank when, you know. And then get some licorice and some chocolates. They're gorgeous little fish. Keep them in a blackwater setup. Absolutely amazing. Paradise, I think. Oh yeah, Paradise are hard water fish, but they can be nippy little sods. I tend to think they're more suitable for being kept like better. Get the girls together or the boys on their own. I did order some nice ones, but they didn't come through. So they might come in through in a few orders. My LFS order them in when they can for order stuff what I want when they can. So I'm still going to leave that tank open. Hoping to get some nice morphs of the Paradise fish. For those of you who don't know, there was a campaign, Be More Like Barry. Barry was a Paradise fish owned by a member on TFK UK. And Barry was just bomb-proof. He could live... So Paradise fish can live to reasonably cold right the way through to quite warm. Not that fussed on water parameters. They can live with others, but they can swim well and all this sort of thing. And basically it would be more like Barry. If you've just got a smallish tank that you just want 1 centerpiece fish, and most people will go, oh, just get a better. No, get a Paradise fish. Bit more bomb-proof. Bit more interesting. Bit more pugnacious in some cases. Anyway, guys, I did have another rant and I've forgotten it. I will remember it and I will probably do like a quick live stream at some point tomorrow to do whatever the rant was that was winding me up. Yeah. I only had 1 major rant. Yeah. There was a bit of thing. I think that's one thing I think we've lost in fish keeping. And I think that's the thing we need to really bring back. And this is where I think internet is damaging the hobby. And I know some wonderful internet sellers. Like I only sell dried goods. We've never sold livestock. So I can't criticize. I sell dried goods on the internet, or I did. I think the one thing that the internet's killing the hobby is if I want something online, I go and search for that thing. So unless I already know about it, I'm not going to be able to search for that one thing. Now that means that the suppliers only order a very narrow band of fish, a very narrow range of fish, which then gives you a scenario that we're not getting the extras in. That's the thing with this hobby. There are thousands of fish, and some of them are gorgeous. Some of them are far more suitable than the rubbish we get. I mean, I won't rant again, but parrots. Who the hell gives them tank space? Flower horns. Who the hell gives them tank space? There's a video going around of someone catching a Midas in the wild as an escaped pet, or a released pet, I should say. I made it sound like fish can just do a runner. Someone had released their pet Midas into a canal. It looks like it's in America somewhere, and they caught it. And in the comments, a load of people are going, "Oh, that's a gorgeous flower horn. That's amazing." And I'm thinking, and me and a lot of other people are going, "No, it's not. It's a Midas." Stunning fish. They don't get that purpley colour. They're a red, white normally. But stunning body shape. Gorgeous fish. The only thing is with Midas is they take a lot longer to develop to that. So you're talking about 5-6 years before you get that level of stunning fish. But you've still got a really friendly pet fish that grows slowly and develops and eventually becomes this really stunning looking animal. And yet we have short-bodied flower horns that you spend a fortune on? Why? Why, people? People go, "I love my parrots." Well, what about all the other cichlids that are out there that are gorgeous and friendly and natural and don't have the health issues and can communicate and don't come from such a cruel trade? I mean, my LFS has got chocolate cichlids. Should I? Should I? Someone stop me. Someone stop me going and getting some chocolate cichlids. They've got Oscars. They've got Psalms. The Psalms are so healthy that they're about this big and they've bred in the LFS. There's a pair of them paired off and they've got fry. Pistogramma. All these sorts of things. They're gorgeous. And to be honest, I think us as YouTubers have got a little hand in there, and I'm going to do my best to correct that, in that we tend to say, look at our tanks, and you guys might never have heard of that particular one before, and you might see a gorgeous fish and then go, "I really want that." And again, we narrow down the hobby because then there's a sudden rush on. I mean, we've sort of done it with plants. I apologise in part, and for my part, in the 53B craze. That's all George's fault. So head over to George Farmer's channel and tell him it's all his fault. Ruth said so. Yeah, I said the 53B thing is all his fault. But that's the thing. I think we do see particular... So... Do not make me do my Finding Nemo rant. Don... If I do a Finding Nemo rant tomorrow, it's Don's fault. I've already done one on the page, the group. I might have to do one on YouTube as well, the Finding Nemo rant, because you know. Bad Don. Reminded me of that rant. What is 53B? Sorry, 53B is a type of plant. So how did it happen? A couple of weeks ago, Tom was looking for a plant to replace something that had grown too big, and George Farmer, who's an aquascaper on YouTube, is an amazing guy, and his missus makes a really nice cup of tea as well. I'm from the north. This sort of things matter. For those of you who don't know, if you're from the north of England, tea is important for us. Tea is life. Anyway, he suggested 53B, and a few people were like, "Oh, it's great, it's brilliant." So they jokingly said they were going to start the 53B fan club, and I think they may have actually started a secret group that only allows 53 members in, but it's this plant, 53B. And then George went to visit the nurseries, the Tropica nurseries that do 53B, and he did a bit of a comp. And then Tom went into absolute spasms of how much he loved 53B. So I did a t-shirt saying, "I heart 53B," and George bought one and wore one in his video. So yeah, it's been a bit of a joke now going on the 53B. Don, hang up. Yeah, just turn in your card and bugger on. Hey, it didn't say I can make a good cup of tea. I just know people who can. I'm really lucky. I am so lucky that my parents live with me. I can just about make a cup of tea. I'm alright. I can survive. It's not brilliant though. Yeah. It's my tears is acceptable. Oh yes, North Yorkshire. Yeah, it's very important there. Okay. So yes, for the people who aren't from England who are watching, who always thought that tea was a bit of a joke, no, no, it's not. I think in our household, yeah, we must go through about 30 tea bags a day comfortably. There's only 3 adults. And we're not the sort that feed tea to our dogs. Some people do give tea to their dogs. And not all of those are for black water. I do use the occasional tea bag for black water, but no, most of them are actually in tea bags. In cups of tea. So yeah, someone just said then, I missed the comment a second, is that... yeah, sorry mate. Gievlingberry D? Yeah, I have a think about it. No. Was it you that said... Who was it that said... Yeah, big thing is the price. So the lesser fish... No, to be honest, I've not found that one. Go onto your... talk to your LFS about what's on the suppliers list. You'll be amazed how many times that the lesser known fish are just as cheap as the better known fish. I think the problem that's happening is that the breeders are offering less because we're buying less. And I think that's really sad. So if you want the lesser known fish, talk to people who are importing from like South America and stuff from the wild. Or parts of Africa also do massive exports. And often if you want something Pacific, and it's this fish that are super common in the native ranges, but they're not catching them because they're not economical to ship out because nobody's buying them. And then when you contact them and say, like, via your LFS will go to their importer will go to the exporter, and the exporter will go to the fisherman, and say, can we have such and such? They go, really? You want that? Sure, we eat it. And then that's getting sent over. So, and also, unless it's really hard to breed, you might find there's breeders in this country that are already breeding it, and you can find them. And people go, well, how do you find them? Get along to your fish societies. These are brilliant places to go and buy really good quality cheap fish. Have I just missed, or am I just missing the Preston District Convention? I can't remember. I've got something on that day. Can't remember what. Yeah, there might be one or two that you can't find. It's always a problem. But no, I've never really struggled that much to get fish. There's the odd one I can't get my hands off. Like mollies are a problem because they're so often hybridized. So yes, some things can be more expensive. But often not. Often it's as cheap or cheaper. I mean, Corys are a bit of a pain, the more unusual ones, because they're not being bred and you have to get them in wild caught. But then you do find that quite rapidly someone breeds them, and then you can get the fry off them, and it's a lot cheaper to buy direct from the breeder. So if you want something, look for it. But yeah, I agree, for the average person. But we're not talking about the super rare stuff. I mean, Nanochromis travestius, tiny little fish, does brilliant in small air tanks, not small tanks. Fantastic colours. No one hardly ever see it. And yet when it is coming, it's about, what, £8 a fish? Something like that? And a pair, and perfectly happy. Epistogramma Panduro. Don't often see those in the LFS now, because everybody wants Triple Red and Agassi and McMasterai and all those sorts of ones, because they're the ones that they've seen on YouTube. And yet Pandora's a gorgeous little fish. Corys. I've stopped seeing the laser ones, golden green lasers, because nobody's going in and asking for them. Stunning fish. Pygmy Corys. I think Pygmy Corys should be the ones we choose over albino. Amazing, fun little guys, as long as you've got nothing big enough to eat them in your tank. For the bigger fish fans, snakeheads. Don't see that many snakeheads in LFS, and you should. You should definitely see them. If we have space in this country for LFS to keep tilapia, and I mean the big ones, not the smaller species of tilapia, iridescent catfish, Pangasius. That's the problem with having two names. My brain was going for both of them. Pangasius, iridescent catfish, red-tailed catfish, tiger shovelnose, Arapaima, however you pronounce that one. Come on, Don, give me some more big fish that are regularly found in the trade. Oh, clown loaches. There you go, clown loaches. if we have enough space to stock them, what the hell are we doing? You should walk into your... Here's a bit of a rant for you. Go on, I said I wasn't going to do any more. It's a mini one. Mini one. Turn down your volume a little bit. If you can walk into your fish shop and buy stuff that should only be in a specialist tank, there is something wrong with this hobby. Nearly every fish shop in this country has got guppies. One of the least suitable fish going. Not for the guppies, they're fine. As long as you keep them in hard water, they'll do fine. But they breed and breed and breed and breed and breed. And they start to ruin the hobby. And they're normally riddled with infection if they're cheap guppies. You got that one held for review. Yeah, Corny, giant gourami. All the different types are better that aren't big, fluffy, fight everything fantails. Yeah, Don just said that word that I'm not going to say because he got it held for review because he said it. He said the N word in a completely harmless context. And yeah, giant gourami again. Yeah, Courtney beat you to it. So we can walk into, I mean, angelfish. I like angelfish. I've kept angelfish. They are not brilliant for the average tank. So let's say we make a list of the 100 most suitable species to keep in a tank. And we're not going to include anything that's endangered in the wild or pain in the backside to get your hands on. So we make a list of the 100 most suitable fish to keep in a tank. Bet you most of them aren't in your LFS. So let's look at the common fodder that we see in an LFS. In fact, I was mentally going to run around mine, but mine's actually not too bad. So clown loaches. Nope. Shouldn't be kept. Should be a specialist fish only. If you want clown loaches enough, you should have to go to the same amount of effort I do if I want to get purebred mollies. Okay? Don't say they should be banned. I have a view, guys, that no fish should be banned. There should be no ban on anything. If you want to keep elephants, keep elephants. But you'd better be able to keep them so they thrive, not survive. Okay? And I'm going to say that should be the same with any species, with the exception of the things that are on the DWA because they can kill you. But then again, I've got a whole other problem with them. But let's push DWA off to one side and say, right, any species that can't kill you, if you can let it thrive, you should be able to keep it. I don't think an average person can keep elephants and allow them to thrive. I don't think the average person can have monkeys and allow them to thrive. And by the way, if you read any animal rights stuff about pet primates, they're talking rubbish. There are no pet primates in this country. There are keepers, but they are in specific licensed situations. There is nobody going around like you do in America with a cute little capuchin, or capuchin, however you pronounce that one. I've heard that pronounced both ways, that's why I do that one. Saying, with like, as a baby. That's purely not a British thing. That we do actually have a reasonably good primate one. But the the rights organisations, sorry, my group's in a welfare organisation. Animal rights is what I say against. The rights organisations go, oh wow, what a brilliant idea. We'll target monkeys or whatever it is. If you can allow that animal to thrive, not just survive, brilliant. You should be able to keep it. But if you can't, you can't. And yeah. Suddenly I've knocked half the fish in your LFS out. And I genuinely have. Clown loaches are out. Most of the big cichlids are out. Iridescent sharks are out with the pangasias. Anything that's a really riverine swimmer is probably out. Even your common hill stream loach is starting to get a problem. Because nobody... I do, and about 5 other people I know do. Hill stream loaches. They are the worst kept ones going. Goldfish. We mentioned it before. They get huge. They're a species of carp. And people shove them in Wanda Loves It 12-litre tanks. Okay? So, as a hobby, we need to be going into our shops and saying, I want. And when they say, we can't get them in, you go, oh, that's fine, and go to the next one and ask them. Because try 3 or 4 and probably one of them will bother to go on the suppliers lists and check. And then they might go, actually, yeah, I can get that in. Or talk to other keepers. go to fish shows. So you want, say you suddenly decide you love goody heads and you want to go, then get along to the British Live Bearers Association show. 5th, 6th of October, I think. Could be wrong. I'll check with Ari. I'm definitely going to have to go to that one, says the person who only just remembered it existed. You want a particular species of guppy. Go along to the Live Bearers show and get a strain of guppy and get hold of it. You want something like, I don't know, so say you have a swimming pool. Okay, you moved into a house and randomly it has a swimming pool left for it. Then you are a bloody one-off. And yeah, you should be able to keep some of the bigger fish. But you can go to the same effort. You can go and talk to Northern Aquatics who can import direct from South America and get your red-tailed catfish imported. You know, just because one or two people can cope with it doesn't mean it should be the norm in our hobby. The norm in our hobby should be for 2 to 3 foot tanks. And the rest of us should have to look for it. Yeah, I've got a 7-foot tank and I'm stocking it with nanofish. I'm not a great example. But okay, Don. Don is on that thread talking to you guys. And he keeps big fish. Brilliant. Sorry, Don, but you should be the one that's struggling to get a hold of fish that are suitable for your tank. Not someone who's got a 2-foot tank and has walked into their LFS. And that's the reality. And let's be completely honest, Don, some of the stuff you keep you can't get in your LFS anyway. So it's not like you're going there anyway and buying these things. What was that bit about primates? There's no pet monkeys in this country. They're all under specific, mostly zoo licensing conditions. We keep constantly getting animal rights organisations banging on about they want to ban pet primate keeping in this country. It is banned. It's mostly under zoo licenses now. There's no underground pet primate things. You get the odd occasional weird thing happening with Monkey World, but let's leave that to a different debate. Fine, Fuzzy Duckling 94, you keep weird fish, big fish. But that's the thing. So, I mean, I think we should do that. And in fact, I think I'm going to do that with the group. Let's find 100 of the most suitable fish for keeping in a standard aquarium. Let's sort of define what a standard aquarium is. What, 2-3 footish, maybe up to 4 at most? Needs sort of, 23 to 26 degrees? We don't want to go much higher because then you're getting big heating bills. You don't want to go much lower because then you're getting some houses that are going to keep it up at that height anyway. Doesn't need a stupid amount of flow. Can cope with a reasonable amount of nitrates because some of us have got 40 ppm straight out of our taps. So has a reasonable nitrate tolerance. And then we can probably break down that 100, so have 100 soft water, 100 hard water sort of thing. And then you guys can go into your fish shop with that going, oop. And then maybe we could colour code that. I don't know, blue ones can all go together, green ones can go with the blue and the yellow ones can all go together. I don't know, I'll work out some sort of code like that. Yeah, marmosets, primates. It's a whole different ballgame. If anyone's interested in primate legislation and stuff like that, I will introduce you to the person who yells about it a lot to people. So, I sit on CASC, the Companion Animal Sector Council, and we deal with all animals except for... Sorry, the working group right now. It's still a working group right now, CASC. We deal with all animals except for horses, dogs, and cats. Everything else is us. And there is a person on there who yells to government people about primates, and he's probably the person to talk to. Yeah, it's disgustingly easy to buy bigger fish. It's wrong. And as a culture, we should be saying, I don't want to say let's make it harder. I don't want to say let's make it impossible. But when someone walks into Pets at Home, a Small Maidenhead Aquatics, something like that, they should be able to buy a fish and walk home and then not come onto my group and go, oh, really sorry, that's a specialist fish. Angels are super common. Everyone seems to love angels. They're pains in the posterior. I'm not saying they should be wiped out of the hobby by any means. But let's replace them with Apistos. Apistogramma. Much better for the average tank. Okay? And some of them are pretty robust now. Let's take Neon Tetras out. Replace them with Cardinals. Cardinals are much more robust. Don't get NTD and don't tend to come in with Columnaris. And let's make sure they're all wild caught, because that does much, much better for the people in the Amazon rainforest. Let's get rid of red-tailed catfish and pangs straight out of the hobby. We don't need them. Let's take most of the sharks as well. Bala, red-tailed black sharks, rainbow sharks. Let's put them onto the specialist list as well. Let's send guppies and mollies over there with them as well. Cories, let's keep all the ones that are relatively in the middle. But anything that's specialist, let's chuck them onto the specialist lists. Malawi, let's maybe say there should be... Well, actually, let's expand the species in Malawi and let's have a look at the ones that are really, really healthy. But let's put them over in a specialist Malawi camp. Mabuna. In fact, let's stop using the word Malawi. Mabuna. There. Haps and peacocks there. Tangs over there. Let's not merge everything together. So, let's say someone comes to me and says, I've got moderately soft, not particularly hard, moderately soft tank. It's a 2-foot tank. What are you putting in there? Okay, well, let's not go mad. Let's not have one of each species. Let's have a nice pair of Apistos. Whatever you can find that's the healthiest. Cockatoides triple red. There you go. Nice fish. As long as the tank's established, they'll do really well in there. Let's have 20 Neon Tetras. Cardinal Tetras. And let's have 10 of one of the smaller Cory species. There you go. That's a nice busy tank. You've got the cichlids doing their own thing and being the more pet fish. You've got the Cories snuffling around being little chaos things. And you've got the Cardinals making it look pretty. Let's plant it up. Jobs are good and off you go. Okay, so someone comes to me with a harder tank and says the same thing. Actually, probably, yeah, I might think about maybe paradise fish as the centerpiece. They're going to be gets. But let's put them, if it's a 3-foot tank, let's do that. And then maybe have one of the smaller but harder water-loving Danios. Okay, we can now take the temperature down, so it pretty much doesn't need the heater. Still keep the heater in case the house gets really cold. But just have a heater in, have the temperature down. You've got paradise fish, the Danios, and let's add some sort of loach that likes that, or something for the bottom. Again, you've got your 3 species, and you've got quite a nice, happy tank. But let's look for all these. People shouldn't be going after clown loaches. What about all the other wonderfully suitable fish? And if we take the industry away from clown loaches, the other fish will come down in price. Why do so few shops stock coolies? Well, actually, I know why so few. Coolie loaches are a pain to catch. But aside from being an utter pain to catch, they are amazing fish. Not in 1s and 2s. 30, they are brilliant. So instead of people going, I've got clown loaches, and I know thousands of people have got clown loaches on my group. Well, wouldn't it be better if thousands of people had 30 coolies? And it's going to be cheaper. Because clown loaches aren't cheap, and then when they need a 12-foot tank, they're definitely not cheap. But coolies, nice big mass of them. They're brilliant. Brilliant fun. Yeah, but so few people keeping marmosets in this country, it's unreal. It's not as big a problem. I think last time the RSPCA established, there was 8 people keeping primates. That was it. It's not a huge number. And I think of those, I think they were all legally keeping them under zoo licenses. I think. I could be wrong, but that's a different debate, not for my one. Discus, yeah. They're, yeah, drop me a message about the legislation. I can put you in touch with the right person on that one. Yep, zebra loach is a great one. So discus. Discus is super... They need a lot of care, and they should be, again, push them into the speciality bracket. We're just talking about bog standard community fun fish. Some of the barbs I've got now are absolutely brilliant. Absolutely great little fish. Interactive, fun, stay small, cute, some of them. Hey, I find fish cute. I'm sorry. I do find fish cute. Let's take cribs. Okay? I don't think they should be in a community tank. Pelvicochromis pulsar. They are angry little buggers when they're breeding. And they breed as badly as guppies. You turn around and get put a... Right. People say, what do I need to make my male and female crib breed? Water. Reasonably soft water. but generally water with cribs, and they'll give a go at breeding. And then they turn into absolute psychopaths. They kill everything that they can get their little gobs around. And what they can't get their gobs around, they just batter to death. I went in with my tank one day, so I've got this 5-foot tank at this time, and it was on a big stand. So I cleaned most of it out. Again, one of those where I didn't clean it out thoroughly. I need to learn. I've done this twice with cribs, actually. And what I didn't realise is I'd left some fry, like about 5 crib fry in the bottom, and I put my Central American cichlids in there, so big bruisers, Red Devils, there was a Jack Dempsey in there, a few other things, like the ones known. I mean, I couldn't put my hands in there when they were breeding, they were that bad. So I come in one day, and every cichlid is up the other end of the tank. Like this third of the tank. There's 2/3 of the tank that's clear. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? And I look, and there is a pair of pelvic acroma pulcher, common cribs, standard cribs, guarding fry. They'd grown up in that tank and bred. And they were beating hell out of everything else. Yeah. So it's the Animal Welfare Licensing Activity. Yeah, that's the AAL. That's the boring one that I had to... I went to too many meetings about that one. It's alright. It's got its problems with that legislation. Right, so... Yeah, cribs will produce another batch of fry when they've still got the last one, and then the last batch of fry will help raise this batch of fry, just to get extra survival. There is some gorgeous other ones out there. Very, very similar looking. There's about like 10 different ones that you can get if you take the different morphs into account. They don't breed as easily. In fact, for most tanks, they won't breed. So they don't go into that psychopath mode. And they're much more suitable. And they're as readily available. They're just not breeding as commonly in captivity. So yeah, maybe we'll have to spend £6 each rather than £3 each. But we're talking about a fish that's going to be with us for the next 10 years. Spend the extra. And you're going to save that for when they don't kill the inhabitants of your tank. Convicts. Seriously. Who thinks convicts make a good fish for the general community tank? Generally. So I think we should be moving, as a hobby, we should be saying, right, no, actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Fishman. I mean, if you went into Morrison's tomorrow, so yeah, you walk into your supermarket, Morrison's, Lidl, whoever you use, right? You walk into Lidl tomorrow, and you go to get bread. Okay? You walk up to the bread aisle. And you say to him, I'd like a white loaf. You've somehow got this imaginary baker in a supermarket, but let's go with it. You say to the shop worker, I'd like a white loaf. There doesn't seem to be any white loaves. And they go, oh no, we've decided to stop stocking white loaves. And you go, okay, what are you stocking? And they go, oh, well, we've got this like yeast-free bread from, you know, the highest plateaus of Tibet. And we've got this unleavened bread. And we've got this stuff, it tastes a bit like rock, but it's okay. You'd go mad. And you'd go, no, I want white bread. And eventually they'd have to bring white bread back, because everyone would be standing around going, no, I want white bread. So just like supermarkets aren't going to get rid of bread, tea bags, baked beans, the meat counter as a whole, and this sort of thing. There you go. You go into your supermarket tomorrow and they've decided they don't want to actually stock beef anymore. They're going to only stock kangaroo and crocodile. You can tell someone lived in the Northern Territories for a while. Oops. Yeah, I did. It's consumers that drive it. And as consumers, we need to start saying, well, actually, we're only one part of the hobby. And do you want to know a real tragedy? People like me. I can think of a couple of people on that list there. Yeah, croc tastes look like chicken, I found. Or maybe that was the, yeah. Ding is saying, don't take his oddballs away. Some of those oddballs are more suitable than some of the rubbish that's being sold in pet shops right now. And you'll still be able to do exactly the same as what you're doing now to get most of your oddballs. Which is you're ordering them. Come on, that's the reality you are. Not talking about taking the decent oddballs away. I'm talking about making it a lot easier to get suitable fish and a little bit more difficult to get the unsuitable fish. How many people would get clown loaches if they weren't in the tanks? That's the reality. Probably not many. They do a bit of research and then decide they're not really that good a choice. How many species of killifish do we see in your LFS? 1, maybe 2. My LFS, I think, has got 2 or 3 in right now. But my LFS is particularly one that specialises in that. I think out of all the fish shops around here, I can think of 3 species, and all of them are at my LFS. Most of them, like 1 or 2. How many species of tetra are they going to have in? 5 or 6? And they're not always going to be the nice ones, the ones that really, really are great. Do you know there are some tetras that shimmer gold under the right light? Amazing fish. Yeah, the sad thing is, people like me, people who've been keeping fish a long time, we stop going to LFS. We don't order from LFS. How sad is that? I'm the one on here talking to you guys. And I do go to my LFS, I'll own up. But why do I go to my LFS? Because I've got a great relationship with them. Because I can walk in there, I can get a cup of tea. I can get some advice on, like, what have you guys seen on the list recently that might be interesting? Because half the time they're going to manage to talk me into something I hadn't thought of. It's brilliant. And sometimes I go in there and I see absolutely nothing and I walk out. Done that before. But sadly, the majority of people, once they get a bit too all-consumed in the hobby, stop going. And we go to breeders' meetings and we swap amongst each other. And I don't think that should be. I think we should be. Why? Because we go off the clown loaches and the pangasius and that. We get bored of it and we don't want guppies. Why should I be the only one that gets a decent fish? Why should it be some unwritten rule that you've got to be in the hobby 15 years before you get access to the really good fish? It's not. The really good fish should be the ones we're introduced to. I don't think there should be goldfish sold at your LFS. Don't think there should be. They don't sell koi. Well, they might do, if they've got a pond section. But let's assume your LFS is just tanks, there's no ponds. Why the hell have they got goldfish then? Why the hell have they got sharks, clown loaches, guppies, mollies? Why haven't they got 6 species of killie? Yeah. Yep. Vampires, golden wonders, they're gorgeous fish, and they should be the ones we're looking at. Yeah, Fuzzy Duckling 94. I haven't even considered the LFS when buying snakeheads for my next tank. Such a shame that shops don't stock them. Amazing fish. Gorgeous. And also, here's a crucial one. A lot of people say it's really expensive to stock a tank. It's not if you get one fish. So what about getting that one stunning fish for your tank? The one that's going to be a pet. I mean, Martin's just lost Pod on the group. For those of you who don't know, Pod was a big puffer. Really, really friendly. But actually, some of the smaller puffers are just equally as friendly. So why isn't one single puffer in your tank a go-to option? Okay, it's not as much fun. You don't get to go shopping each weekend. But I've got 2 dogs. Nobody criticizes me for only having 2 dogs. Nobody expects me to go get another dog each weekend. If I went out every weekend and bought a dog or a cat, I think I'd have some authorities called quite quickly. So once I'm saying that there's actually nothing wrong with doing that. If you've got a big enough tank and you've got the stocking that does die off reasonably quickly, so you've got killies, you've got the shorter-lived tetras and stuff, and you do get a reasonable turnover, then yeah, you can see it going out every so often. But there's nothing wrong with getting one fish. I'm going to have 5 tanks. They're either only going to have 1 or a pair of fish in there. That's great. Suits me. They'll be the fish that I can know, and some of the fish I'll be planning on training. Because fish are really trainable, and that sounds really sad when you say it. But fish are super trainable. In fact, fish do a lot of training. They train us when to feed them. Come on, how many of you have done it? The fish swim up to the tank, the spot in the tank, and you go, oh, you want feeding? Who just got trained? Seriously. I walked in there a few days ago. One of the chocolate gouramis swum up and started wriggling against the tank. I did an about face and went and got them some live food. Wasn't until I was halfway back I just realised that a fish I've only like 3 weeks had trained me. Anyway, so yeah. Oh, flip, he's changed his name. Sorry guys, Fuzzy Duckling 94 has actually changed his name to Don. It gave me a shock. I didn't expect that one. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's really, I think, important. And yeah, that's one thing. If anyone's got any good ideas for the top 100 fish that we should be looking at, and like I said, I'm thinking doing a soft water and a hard water, and I'll be putting that up on the forum. Forum.tropicalfishkeeping.co.uk. We're going to be storing a lot more of our info on there because it's easier for you guys to find. It's difficult on the groups to find that sort of thing. So start thinking about what ones would be really suitable. And don't be surprised if I go no. And I apologise in advance. I did this when I suggested a pet fish. People kept going, oh, this one. I kept going, yeah, I've got one. Oh, no, I've had that one. Oh, no, that one's in the next tank over. No, I don't want that one. Or I've got similar. So yeah, I do apologise when I do this. It's just, I do tend to think about this thing. Right, I'm going to say bye-bye because I've got a little doggy waiting out there for me who's looking rather pathetic. I've been asked, I've had a couple of PMs asking me to do live streams on the group as well. I don't know. I think they probably, if I do, they're only going to be shorter ones on there, purely because you guys can't find them, whereas you can find them all on here. I'm going to be putting more stuff up on here. Don't say, yeah, lionfish you can train. If there's one fish I don't like, it's lionfish, and it's purely because when I was diving, lionfish are endemic now when I'm doing it. Lionfish are invasive all over the world. So I had this job in South Africa where we lived in Richards Bay, and one of the problems in Richards Bay is there's two yacht clubs, or a marina and a yacht club. And when yachts have come across an ocean, so they've just come across the Indian Ocean when they arrive in Richards Bay, they're covered in goose barnacles and general stuff. And you have to actually scrape it off, otherwise the yachts slow down. And the problem is, when you think about it, you can lose like 10-20% of your speed. And you might only have enough water for a set distance. So it's a real good idea to get the barnacles off. So my job used to be to go down and scrape the barnacles. Sounds great. I used to earn decent money as well. I used to earn really good money. The only problem was the whole bay was the home of Zambezi, the river bull shark. Now, the problem with bull sharks is they're one of those species that can go from salt to fresh. But the problem is when they go from salt to fresh, they get even more aggressive. And they weren't a not aggressive species in the salt water. When they go into fresh water, they're like a really aggressive bloke who's drunk and is willing to fight anyone. And they normally do this because they're hungry. So they're aggressive, willing to fight anyone, and hungry. And big enough to take on a human. It's probable, if you've ever read it, a brilliant book about the original shark that was probably inspired Jaws. Close to the Shore, it's called. Love that book. Read it over and over again. And it's possible. He's the one that says it's a great white. But there's now more evidence that probably the book that inspired Jaws was inspired by the true story, which was actually a bull shark, not a great white. Different opinions. The fact it went upriver and it went upriver so far probably indicates it was a bull shark. So anyway, my job, dive with these buggers, scrape the boats. So you had pontoons where the boats are tied up to, and in between the pontoons is a gap about yay big-ish, Perfect for a lionfish to hide because it's about the only cave for them. So I'm coming up. Now when you're diving, especially when you're working on barnacles, I just put a set of coveralls on, overalls, and then just tie the wrists to make sure that nothing got down there. And then a mask, and my hair tied back, and the only thing that's exposed is my neck. And I am one of those super allergic-y persons. I have to carry an EpiPen because I'm allergic to so many things. And one of the things I'm deathly allergic to is lionfish stings. So can you imagine, deathly allergic to them, get stung on the neck while working in a bay full of bull sharks? Yeah, that wasn't a recipe for disaster at all. So I never did get stung on that job, but partly because I was so terrified of the buggers. And they'll actively come out at you, out the little gaps. And sometimes you're sheltering because there's a shark there. And you can't get to safety because there's a pontoon there with a lionfish and a sheer side of a boat there. And you need the lionfish to bugger off so you can get out the water to safety. So yeah. No, it didn't quite get me in the neck. It was near. One day I came up and I could feel something dragging on my hair, because my hair tie had come loose while I was underwater. And it was a lionfish. It was caught in my hair. And there was a bit of everyone going, stay still. And someone got a net and sort of pulled it off and it swam free. But yeah, it somehow managed to get tangled in my hair. That was a bit of a Yeah, but to give you a very quick one about that one, I'm underwater. And so as you're scraping off barnacles are living things. You're scraping them off. And so the small fish come to feed on the bits of barnacles you're breaking off. And then the slightly bigger fish come to feed off them. And then the slightly bigger fish. And chain up. And then what you do is you watch those fish. Because the second those fish dive or vanish off, you know the sharks come. And then you start to worry. You really start to look for it. So I'm underwater, I'm scraping away, little fish playing around. I'm really close to the end, so I'm thinking, I don't care. I'm going to get this job finished. It's fine. And then all the fish go. So I turn around really slowly. So I'm underwater. It's pretty dark because I'm between a marina and a boat. There's not a great deal. And all I can see is bull shark. Like, I've got a mask that's, so I use just like the black masks all around with like a glass pane. All I can see is bull shark. It's my view is full. And I'm like, oh jeez. And this isn't like Caribbean crystal clear water. Like the viz is about from me to the camera. It's really short. Like just about to see my hand. And I start to think and I think, that's very clear. It's a big fish. So, I mean, my brain went, oh my god, this is a 16-footer. It's huge. I'm going to die. That's really clear. And then a little fish swam past. And it didn't swim between me and the shark. It swam behind the shark. And I reached up like that, expecting like... And then I realised my hand was behind the shark. And it was a little baby bull shark. And it was tiny. It was even like tinier than an average bull shark pup should be. It was tiny. And it was so close. It looked big. Oh, it was lovely. That thing hung around for ages. About 3-4 months later, it was getting big. Because, like, it was just following me dive site to dive site and eating the little fish that came up to feed on the barnacles. And it was getting a bit aggressive. So, it's just starting to get aggressive. Anyway, because it was little, when it was little, I'd just shove it out the way. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was probably about, getting on for about 6 foot, no, say about 5 foot long. It was getting as big as I was by the time we were leaving. And I shoved him out the way, or it out the way. I shoved it out the way one day, and it swung around and it snapped at me, and I just realised I was playing silly buggers with a wild animal, because it was just so used to me effectively feeding it, because I was scraping this stuff off. So I had to take a bang stick down next time, and what that is, it's a stick, literally, and it's got a little explosive charge on the end, and you just jab it into something, and the explosive charge goes off, and then it scares them. And I primed it, so it was a very, very little bit of explosives, not just enough to make it go away. And I bang sticked it the next time, and it was off, and I never saw it again. It wasn't hurt or anything, but I knew at that point it needed to learn that the human could hurt, because it was just a bit, just a bit scary. So yes, that was one of my things there. That was a really interesting river though, because upriver there'd been tropical fish farms, and because at the time South American fish were all the rage, they were breeding South American fish, and then it flooded and it washed all the fish out into the river, and they thrived. It was soft water, it was perfect. The problem was where the line where I was just, it was part of the day was brackish and part of the day it was pure fresh. And we'd get like angelfish and all the South American species swimming around. And I think that's really sad, because Africa has got some gorgeous species. I challenge anyone to find one a nicer mouth brooder than the South American Egyptian and Southern mouth brooder. Gorgeous fish. Loved mine. If I could get another one, I'd have them tomorrow. Amazing fish. Why aren't we importing them and keeping them? I love Oscars, don't get me wrong, but they're not a community fish. So let's be looking at more of these smaller, personable fish. Don keeps getting his thingamajigs, his comments held for review. YouTube must assume he's naughty. Anyway, guys, thank you for staying with me. I'm amazed that you guys have stayed with me all this time, because according to that, it's been 3 hours. According to the time down there, it's been 3 hours as well. So I will love you and leave you. If you've got any questions or anything, feel free to drop me a... arowana or mouse brooders. They're pretty too. To be honest, I think arowana are more suitable than a lot of the other fish we keep. So anyway, guys, I will say I love you and leave you because I could go on all night about this sort of thing. Next live stream is at 8:30 this Saturday. It was due to be salty, as in marine fish keeping, but it turned out we couldn't get any salty people on. So that will be this time next week. We will be doing marine, and I will have had exactly 0 hours sleep the night before. So I think we're going to be expecting Don to be making sense. I might be on here, but I think I might be the one sleeping in the corner. But it's alright, our politicians do it. Our politicians go to sleep when nothing important, it's fine. So yes, so thank you very much, Dan. And yes, bye-bye everybody.